This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Jets on top of the mountain in the National Hockey League, looking to complete the first half of the NHL schedule tonight with Game 41 against the Chicago Blackhawks. Unfortunately, coming to town without Connor Bedard, who's out 6 to 8 weeks with that fractured jaw. For the Jets, the job is pretty simple. Keep this thing rolling, put up another 2 points, and complete the best first half in franchise history. LB gets the start tonight. No surprise there. Laurent Brossoit will be in. And Mark Scheifele spoke earlier today. We'll get into that. Bit of a scare in the game on Tuesday night, but out there with his teammates celebrating after that big 5-0 win over Columbus, and 55 will be out there tonight. Kevin Cheveldayoff spoke today, and you know, as often, plenty of questions from a variety of media. We'll have a few clips on that. Nothing definitive about where they're going, but pretty clear that he's quite happy with where the club is right now. So we'll have a little bit of Kevin Cheveldayoff for you, maybe a little bit of Mark Scheifele later on. Scott Billeck from The Sun is going to jump on. He was there at the rink this morning, so we'll both get to a little bit of the game, as well as what he thought about what we heard from Jets GM Chevy as well. We've got a treat for you, folks. I know everyone was loving the tweets from Chuck Hellebuyck, Connor Hellebuyck's father. And we've got Chuck on the show today. So we'll talk a little bit about the dad's trip and how much fun the guys had watching their sons, or in the mentor's case, their, what do we call them, proteges, continue their winning ways of sweeping the road trip. But we're also going to kind of try and dig into dad's head about how Connor Hellebuyck became Connor Hellebuyck. Some really interesting stuff from Hellebuyck as a youngster. A very unique path to the National Hockey League, shall we say, as well as we're going to work on him for some YouTube tips, because if you weren't aware, Chuck has a very popular YouTube channel with, I believe, 292,000 subscribers, talking electronics and in particular 3D printing. So I think you're really going to enjoy that. We'll have that coming up in the second half of the program. And making his WST debut, Josh Frey-Sam from the Winnipeg Free Press. We're going to get into these wildcard games on the weekend. And in addition, Josh will get a very deserved WST victory lap for winning the Winnipeg Media Fantasy Football League at my expense, as his guy Jordan Love lit up his opponent, which was me. So we're going to have some fun, but we'll talk some NFL with Josh in the last sort of half hour of the show. We'll get to the Coolbet lines. Jets, the biggest favorite I've ever seen them be. -400 favorites tonight. Maybe we'll put up a little WST parlay and try and go back-to-back after that nice win on Tuesday night. But Chevy, Billeck, Chuck, Josh, lines, we got a packed show, so let's get right to it. Listen, just before we do, let me give a big thanks to the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our friends at Coolbet Canada. Also want to thank Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery and Modern Man, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, the Winnipeg Jets, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, and we'll get into a Why Not question of the day for Not Auto Corp, as well as our friends at the unbelievable summer getaway at Aitken's Lake Wilderness Lodge. All right, go time. Shout out to everybody in chat. Hit that thumbs up button. Welcome new folks finding us, wanting to find out more about the number one team in the NHL. Hit that subscribe button, and welcome in the brains of the operation, Michael Remis. Remo, what's up?
Just getting set today. Bit of a hectic morning here. With the Kevin Cheveldayoff speaking for lengthy, over 30 minutes. There is a game tonight. Jets, Blackhawks, huge favorites. Winnipeg Jets. I see Money Puck. I go to their site for the winning probabilities. They have the Jets at 78.5% chance to win, and their Coolbet money line was like minus 400 or something silly.
Yeah.
I think the math almost works out to very similar. So, and we'll interested to see what happens tonight with the Jets and Blackhawks. I mean, the Blackhawks, they barely have an NHL team, but they've played pretty competitively the last couple of games against Edmonton and Calgary. So we'll see what happens tonight. And the Jets look to keep the streak going, the point streak, but also the streak of 2 or less, the streak of 3 or less. There's a lot of streaks. Guys have point streaks. Everything's coming up Jets here, so should be another great one.
Well, and just speaking of streaks and going streaking, Dusty and I were just kicking around some options for tonight on the card in the lock shop. And the Jets aren't the only team with a pretty nice streak going. Of course, the Edmonton Oilers are on fire. They've won 8 in a row. And if you date back to, I guess, 19 games ago, they had that 8-game winning streak. They lost 3 in a row. Now they rattled off another 8 in a row to pretty much erase that miserable start, get right back into the mix in the Pacific Division, especially as the Los Angeles Kings continue to struggle, losers of 6 straight games. But the Oilers have won 8 in a row. The Jets have won 7 in a row. Paul Maurice's Panthers have won 8 in a row. But Remo, were you aware that the Seattle Kraken have won 7 straight games and are 8-0-2 in their last 10?
No, I didn't know that. I know Joey Decord has been playing really well for them, and Kraken are an interesting team because I don't think they have a number one line. I think they have like 3, lines that they can rely on, and do they have a number one? I think whatever power play Vince Dunn is on, I guess that's the number one power play. But I couldn't figure them out last year, and they made the playoffs. I'm curious what happens with Seattle. And speaking around the NHL, there was only 3 games on. Our good friends in Minnesota, the Wild, in action against Dallas. It's funny how Minnesota played Winnipeg 2 games in a row, and they played Dallas 2 games in a row and lost both of them. And here's a nice tweet from Michael Russo as we look around the NHL, Huss. The Wild could have pulled within 4 points of the Jets, before those 2 games. They are now 20 points behind the Jets.
It was 11 days ago.
That was 11 days ago, and he says they've destroyed everything they started by winning 11 of the first 14 under Hines, injuries or not. And a lot of Minnesota fans saying, hey, can we bring back Dean Evison now? And
it's coach's fault.
I tweeted, I think they've had a number of injuries, including, I don't know if you know, Kirill Kaprizov got injured in that game against the Jets. I don't know if you remember.
Targeted.
Yes.
Targeted by the Jets. Again.
Targeted, yeah, very cheap hit. And I tweeted out rough stretch for the Wild after being swept by the Jets, and a lot of Jets fans just hopping into my mentions.
Me included.
You included.
Tough scene. You really hate to see it.
So, that's what's going on around the NHL as the Jets, are still on top and looking down. And here, should we just bring up the standings so we can just look and...
Yeah, let's do it. I think we should start off the show with the standings every day right now.
There it is. Winnipeg Jets, number 1. And best points percentage, too. It's not one of those fake number ones where you've played more games than everyone. They've actually played less games than Vancouver and Colorado, who are 2 and 3. So really impressive stuff here from the first place Winnipeg Jets. And what a great time for the GM to come out and speak, too, when your team's been first.
And, we'll get to that in a minute. And then, Chevy will always, do something kind of mid-season. But, yeah, you're right. This was a perfect time to do it. And I joke with Dusty that, I would have loved to have seen Chevy roll into the press conference at the Matt Frost Media Center with all the media waiting around, ready to ask him questions, just with that Vince McMahon strut. Because he should have a bit of a jump in his step right now with the way that his team has played. And, the one thing I think, we'll get out and we'll play a few of these clips is that, as pleased with the way the season has gone so far, as I said, they're not hanging a banner for being first in the league at the 40-game mark. There is still a lot of work to do. But I think what has been so impressive with this team, Remo, and this is And we've talked about this even in comparison to previous years, including last year, where the team, certainly the record had a great start. It is the way that they've done it. And that foundation of dominating 5-on-5 play, not relying on special teams, getting great goaltending, but as a team, making those guys' jobs, I think, significantly, I don't want to say easier, but limiting the high danger chances, letting them do their jobs and not having to be superheroes to win every night, has created a situation where the Jets not only expect to win every night, but play in a style that gives them a pretty darn good chance with the talent that they have and the way that the team has come together and clicking right now.
Yeah, and I think last year, as much as we, were pumping the tires of being first in the West, but you could see there were some signs that, hey, the way they're winning these games may not be sustainable for a full 82, but you look at the way they're playing and you just hear the guys on Columbus from last game saying, hey, they're protecting the front of the net. They're making it challenging to produce offense, and they're also getting the puck to the net. And they have, some new players like Gabe Villardi, who makes a living at the side of the post there, making for tap-ins. So there's certainly some different forwards on this team. Some guys like Nino Niederreiter come in, give you more of that hard-nosed style and provide offense as well. So they're getting scoring from all areas. They're keeping the puck out of the net, limiting quality chances, and they keep going like this. And they should, be in the running for a President's Trophy, which is crazy to think. But, it was interesting hearing Nikolai Ehlers when we played the clips yesterday saying, hey, they're pretty well aware of the second half fall off last year, and they're going to keep, putting in the work and making sure they have the right process. And if they do that, they'll keep getting the right results. And I think that's been one of the mantras, as long as no excuses, just solutions. From Rick Bowness, and they're certainly following everything the coaching staff is preaching.
Listen, just before we get to Chevy, let's quickly touch on the morning skate. Kyle Connor out there taking part in a yellow non-contact jersey. Great to see as Kyle Connor works towards returning to the lineup after that knee injury that reportedly set him back 6 to 8 weeks in Anaheim in December. But there was no Axel today on the ice, Remis, and apparently they're going to see how Axel feels closer to the game. He would be, I guess, categorized as a game-time decision, and if Axel can't go, it sounds like Logan Stanley will come in and go 11-7.
Yeah, interested about what the lines are going to look like, but it was great to see Kyle Connor out there. He's still wearing the yellow jersey, but hey, taking practice on the fourth line. Nice to see, and curious about Axel. If he can't go, it sounds like Logan Stanley will step in, and I think there was no surprise that Lauren Brossoit expected to start, what you mentioned earlier, and I think the Jets can trust both their goalies, but if you can't trust, your backup against Chicago right now, I mean, who can you trust them against? And nice to see him get a start, and we'll see how the goalie rotation looks as they have have some tougher opponents coming up next week with Boston and Toronto.
Well, and also a lot of rest. I mean, the last 2 weeks have been so busy for the club, and it's not stopping as they host Philadelphia Saturday night. Then they've got 2 days off Sunday and Monday before the Islanders come in to finish off this 4-game homestand, and then 3 days off before hitting the road to Ottawa, then Boston, and then finishing off January in the pre-All-Star game portion of the schedule with a home-and-home series against the Toronto Maple Leafs, Wednesday the 24th in TO, and then back here in Winnipeg for our next WST game on January 27th. So Brossoit getting the start tonight. Wouldn't be surprised if he potentially played against Ottawa. We sort of talked about this yesterday, I believe, with Murat. And then Hellebuyck could potentially go those final 3 games heading into the All-Star break: Boston, Toronto, and Toronto. Although I'm far less worried about the goaltending rotation right now, Remo, considering the way the team is playing, first and foremost, in front of the goaltenders, but just how great Laurent Brossoit's been. I mean, we talk a lot about Hellebuyck, and deservedly so. We talk a lot about these streaks with the 2 goals and the 3 goals. But LB has been a huge part of that as well, and he has been putting up Hellebuckian numbers, if you will, when he's getting his opportunity to tend the Jets net.
Yeah, Lauren Brossoit, again, both goalies got off to a bit of a slower start, but Brossoit's numbers have been pretty incredible. I mean, he was pretty good here in 2020-21, 918 save percentage, 242 goals against. Well, he's better than that right now on the season. 920 save percentage and 320 goals against. It's been awesome. He's 6-3-1. They can certainly trust him, and he's been very solid the last couple games, so I expect that to continue tonight against Chicago Blackhawks, who are missing Connor Bedard. So, tough for the fans who want. I mean, he looks so good. Maybe it's good for the Jets because he did score 2 goals last time they played, and they were. And I had to go on Twitter, and literally everyone's like, "Oh my God, look how great this Connor Bedard goal is!" And it's him going end to end and sniping one on Hellebuyck for the OT winner. So,
well, to be honest, I thought his first goal was that much more impressive. He might be the only guy in the planet that would have been able to score that goal. He's a special player. We won't see him tonight, and obviously that probably helps the Jets' chances of winning, but is disappointing. And hopefully people got a chance to see him when he was here in December 2nd. Although, watch what you wish for, because I think we're going to have a steady dose of Connor Bedard in the division for the next decade. So take it while you get it with the opportunity to play this team. I mean, and I will say this, as great as consistent as the Jets have been, this game does make me a little nervous, and you nailed it, Remo. Without Bedard, without Foligno, they played the Calgary Flames on the weekend, who were desperate for wins in that dogfight for that final wildcard spot, and beat Calgary, and then followed it up playing against a red-hot Edmonton Oilers team that did win the game 2-1, but kept the Oilers to 15 shots against. So I know when we look at, a first line of Kurashev, Radish, and Rem Pitlick, and Colin Blackwell, Dickinson, Joey Anderson, Cole Gutman. I mean, most of these players, the average fan, for the most part, has never even heard of. It's still the National. You still got to play for 60 minutes. The Jets have been great at that, but you can't let your guard down, even against an undermanned team near the bottom of the standings.
Yeah, I was very surprised, that the closeness of that Edmonton-Chicago game earlier this weekend, how they limited Edmonton to so few shots. So we'll see. There's one all-star in here somewhere, Hustler. I'm not sure if it's going to be Kurashev or Dickinson who's going to go for the Blackhawks. But, hey, as you said, this is still an NHL squad, and there's just such big favors to the Jets. It does make you nervous, but they have been so workmanlike. Whenever you think it's going to be a letdown game, they come and just did what they whipped up Arizona, Columbus. Shut them out. So what's going to happen tonight? We'll have to wait and see. And there's former Jet Zach Sanford on the fourth line. Just got picked up too.
Yeah, he got grabbed on waivers, I believe, from the Coyotes about 3 or 4 days ago. So he'll be in the lineup tonight. Rem Pitlick doesn't even have a number on DFO right now, and another new player. And they're just trying to get through this next stretch without Bedard, get him back into the lineup, and get another nice pick, use some of that cap space to add a couple more players to the fold and be much more competitive next season. But again, it's one game at a time. The Jets need to get to the 41-game mark with this game tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks. They're a huge favorite, but you still got to go out and get it done on the ice. Let's hear a little bit of Chevy, and we're going to talk about this coming up with Scott Billeck in a few minutes. But I mean, it has been an amazing thing. Or actually, why don't we listen to Scheifele first, though, Remo, while we're talking about this game? Because Mark Scheifele did speak this morning. And again, if you were in the building on Tuesday night against Columbus, there was some serious concern with Mark and where he took that puck, how much pain he looked to be in afterwards. And, listen, the name Brian Little came up, and Brian Little, such a beloved former member of the Winnipeg Jets, who had his playing career cut short by a similar incident where he took a puck right in the ear. Scheifele spoke with the media after the morning skate today and talked about getting hit and then coming back to celebrate at the end of the game.
Yeah, I think just scared, it hits you kind of like it obviously hurt, and like just didn't really know what happened, so you're kind of just a little bit of in shock, and then you kind of come with it and just like, okay, like I'm probably cut, let's just get off the ice and and get it looked at. So more scared than anything. But obviously, the doctors, the medical staff, everyone did an amazing job. So, happy that everything's all good.
Was there any doubt that you were going to come back onto the ice, though, to join your teammates for the victory celebration?
When I started to actually start breathing and realizing I was all good, and it was just my ear, and then I realized I was all good and settled out, and obviously wanted to, the process took a lot longer than I anticipated, but the doctors did an amazing job stitching me up and making sure I was okay, and doing all the necessary testing to make sure I was all okay. So obviously very, very thankful to them, and thankful to God that I'm all good here.
All right, so 55 good to go. Everyone exhaled when we saw him out there celebrating with the team at the end of the 5-0 win. But as I mentioned, a lot of people talking about Brian Little, and Mark was asked when it happened if he thought about his old friend B. Litz.
Oh, for sure it did. A lot of thoughts went through my brain, and like I said before, I'm just thankful that the trainers, the doctors, they did everything to make sure that I was okay, and did all the necessary tests to make sure that everything was that was all good. So obviously very thankful to them, but definitely a lot of scary moments and scary thoughts. Anxiety creeps in a little bit, and you need someone there to calm you down, and they did a really good job with that.
Mark, it was big for the crowd for you to come out there after the game. Was it important for you to do that, or was that just organic? Did you want to get out and show the crowd that you were okay?
I don't think it was much about the crowd. It was more celebrating with the boys. That's what it was more about. I think I just got finished getting stitched up, and there was probably a minute left on the clock, and asked the trainers if I could go out there, and it was more about celebrating with the with the guys. And obviously it's nice to not have to have everyone answer questions about it afterwards. So it was a win situation.
All right, so there's Mark Scheifele. All systems go for 55 tonight. The question mark for tonight's game is our guy Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, who has just been brilliant as part of that fourth line since being called up from the Manitoba Moose. Was not out for the morning skate today. Will be a game time decision. If he is unable to go, Logan Stanley will get back in, and the Jets will run 11 forwards and 7 defense. So Billeck coming up in a few minutes, but let's hear a little bit of what Kevin Cheveldayoff had to say. And again, I joked that he should have walked into the Matt Frost Media Center with that Vince McMahon strut, with the way that his team has been playing lately, and certainly considering some of the heat he took from many of you in the chat and many people in the market, it has been a magical first 40 games for his hockey club, and a lot of the work that he has done over the course of the offseason, his fingerprints all over it. Here's Chevy on just how the season has lived up and his expectations with where the team is right now.
Well, I think that, you play the games, you obviously, you expect and you hope for the best results. But one thing I guess that, has been very nice to see is just, the way the players have taken to, what Bones and Arnie and the coaches, have been preaching. And at the end of the day, it's about the players performing, and it's about the players, trying to reach new levels. And we always talked about, in that room, it's like, what are we capable of? And, they're trying to prove to themselves and, to each and every person, their line mate or their seat mate, and, what they can achieve. So, we've accomplished nothing yet. They've accomplished nothing yet. They know that. And, but it's certainly, you put yourself in a good situation, if you play like that night after night.
Fair to say, exceeded your...
Well, sure. Again, you expect to win every night, but that doesn't happen. Obviously you expect, your best every night, but that doesn't happen. But when you can find a way, to win more than you lose on a nightly basis, it is something that, they can take pride in.
A great first 40 games, but as you mentioned, nothing has been accomplished yet, although it's been a hell of a lot of fun following the team for the first 40 games. They finish off the second half tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks and then move on to Philadelphia on Saturday. But another interesting question, certainly to get Chevy's perspective of is, watching the team that struggled down the stretch last season and bowed out early in the playoffs become the team that today is number 1 of 32 in the NHL?
It's obviously, again, it's the nature of this job that you are looked at with a very critical lens, and you should not get into this industry if you don't think that that's part of the equation. And again, it's your responsibility to take a broad look at things and to maybe take a step back and to analyze and talk. And it's not just me. You've got I'm blessed with just an unbelievable staff, with respect to my assistant general managers. Again, coaching staff, we're on the same page. We speak the same language. You're easy to talk to. So you can lean on them too, for their experiences. Having a coach behind the bench that, has stood behind there, more than any other person, in the National Hockey League is something that, you tap into as well. So again, those are the conversations that we had at the end of the year. You always have hard exit meetings when you're, not the last team standing. I think the best thing about winning a championship is that no one asks you what happened, why, So those are the things that you strive for, and again, we had to make some tough decisions this summer, and we systematically worked through those through a process of making those decisions, and one thing sometimes does lead to another when you do make some decisions that kind of piggyback on top of each other.
All right, so a little bit more from General Manager Kevin Cheveldayoff, who spoke today at the Matt Frost Media Center at Canada Life Center. It's funny hearing Chevy, mention, when you finish the season and you don't win the cup, you don't get to the ultimate goal, there's always people asking what happened or why. I think probably 24/7, 365 when he's out and about, Winnipeg Jet fans will be asking something. But as Kevin said that, here's what Chevy had to say about what it's like to go out to the local coffee shop right now with this team playing the way that it is.
Coffee actually is some of the funnest time for me here in Winnipeg because, you do get, through the good times and the bad, you get to feel the passion of the people. And, maybe I just go to the right coffee shops, but there's always been a lot of positive. And actually, as weird as it sounds, sometimes during the toughest times, those are the things that pick you up, when people, are there, say, hang in there, we're with you, and there's been a lot of that, over the course of time that we've been here. But it's certainly, again, when you get to see people talk about the game last night and see their passion and excitement and that's fun.
All right, so Jets General Manager Kevin Cheveldayoff, and one more interesting piece from Chevy's availability. And again, the entire thing is up on the Jets YouTube if you want to watch it in its entirety. It was a question about the team and how their long-term planning may have changed compared to the previous seasons now that Nino's locked up for 3 more years. And, of course, the huge dual extensions on Thanksgiving of Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah, so, it's interesting, the Nino conversations actually started right at the end of the year last year. Like, he wanted to, they wanted to jump out and get it done right away. And I needed to make sure that, I had a plan in place or felt that, I could present, the right things, whether it's to myself or ownership or, even the fans or the players in the room. And, so that's why things take time, and I know I frustrated a lot of people here, when I stood up here at the podium at the end of the season and I said, I have to evaluate. We all have to evaluate. We have to take stock in where, things may or may not go and how we're going to handle it. And again, you might be frustrated with me here at the end of this podium today because I'm not going to make any bold proclamations about anything, coming up here because, this is the process in the National Hockey League. And wake up tomorrow and, I tell you what, I don't know if anyone sprinted down the stairs quicker, like when Scheif got the puck to the head there yesterday, because all I could think of was, what we had gone through, years past. And it's those moments in time that these are people, and these guys are, they are like family, and we talk about it. And we talked about things like that with, when Bones, had to take a step back to deal with Judy, and I stood in front of the guys in the dressing room. I said, we talk about being a family, but now we got a chance to walk it. We can talk the talk, but we get a chance to walk it now. And credit to obviously Arnie and Lau and Marty and Flats, for picking up where that, but it's a credit to, I think, the guys that, they didn't let that bother them. They didn't let that step away. So the business side of things are, obviously ongoing all the time, and you have to deal with them. But when you can shut yourself into that dressing room and play the game, that's what the guys all care about.
All right, so there's a little bit of Kevin Cheveldayoff from this morning. Scott Billeck was down at the rink for the morning skate, and Chevy's presser. We'll chop it up with Billeck in just a minute. But again, the entire thing is available at the Winnipeg Jets YouTube if you want to watch it all for yourself. Hey, before we bring in Scott, a big thanks to our friends at Canadian Club. We've sort of been joking that, well, it's not even joking. I know a lot of Jet fans have been toasting victories one after another. If you are doing that, you may as well make it with Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club. There's a CC for every occasion, and the occasions right now are Winnipeg Jet wins, and that's making everybody around these parts happy. And of course, CC, also a proud sponsor, is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But if you pop into your local Manitoba liquor marts right now, check out all the Canadian Club favorites, the original 100% rye CC Classic 12-year-old, and there are still limited availabilities left of the special Canadian Club Invitation Series CC 15-year-old Sherry Cask, the signature Classic 12-year-old whiskey finished with a secondary aging in Oloroso sherry casks. All the hallmarks of classic Canadian Club with the added richness and sweetness of sherry. Pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts and stop up on Canada's #1 Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club. And as always, please enjoy responsibly. Guys, we are into 2024 right now. The Jets are looking good. Very good. If you want to look great, get on down to Modern Man Barber Shop and get a great new look for 2024. Modern Man has 8 locations in Winnipeg, including the newest locations on either Pembina Highway or Plessis Road. And guys, they've got you covered with a variety of grooming services, including great haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. You can make an appointment and book your look via modernmanbarber.com. And give them a follow on Instagram as well over at Modern Man Barbershops. And hey, it's getting chilly right now. I'm looking ahead. I'm not pleased with these daytime highs of minus 20 or worse, but we knew it was happening, and you better be ready with your car battery so you're not on the side of the road calling somebody for a pickup or a boost. And of course, Manitoba Battery's got the best prices in town, beating the pants off the big box stores. But there's also big news for Manitoba Battery, because next month in February, they're opening up a second location in the south end of Winnipeg. Donnie and the gang want to thank all of you for your support along the way. And now for South Winnipeg folk, you'll be able to get your batteries locally and conveniently from the new location at 452 Dover Court. We'll fill you in on sales and grand opening specials coming up as they get closer to open. But they did want to thank all the WST fans for their support and making Manitoba Battery one of the Winnipeg Sports Talk family. Get on over for all your battery needs at the best price and shopping local, manitobabattery.com, or give them a phone call at 204-783-8787. All right, let's welcome in Billeck for a little more Jets talk. Big one tonight as they finish up the first half of the season. And, of course, Kevin Cheveldayoff speaking this morning. Scotty, what's going on?
First of all, Huss, can we pour one out for Bill Belichick today? The greatest coach in NFL history. Can we do that at least?
Is he the greatest coach in history? I mean, was it Brady or Belichick? I mean, I'm not usually a big Brady guy, but
he's got
yikes.
8 Super Bowls. He's got 8 Super Bowls, Huss. Let's just give him the credit that he's due.
Okay, well,
and we can move on to the real story of the day.
Pour a little of my Diet Pepsi out for Bill.
Let's pour a little bit out.
He's not. Oh wow, the Team North America tumbler. That was a showstopper.
Yes, so these are. I have the whole collection of these things. These are. I think 7-Eleven gave these away back for the the World Cup of Hockey. Actually, there's been a couple times I've been on the show. I've been like, so I just like rotate them. But it's a couple times last season where I was on the show and I was drinking out of the Russian one. And I was probably not a good look at the time. Probably still isn't a good look. But hey, man, I got what I got. I mean, I bought them when Russia wasn't as crazy. So
I'm with you as someone that literally never uses glassware. Yeah. My favorite. I take it a lot of it straight out of the container. But I will admit to my favorite and most used cups often being either from sporting venues that were originally beers or from Sev, my favorite store that's been there for me 24/7 throughout the last number of decades. Listen, we'll get to Chevy in a minute, but let's quickly talk about this game tonight.
Yeah.
You know, listen, there's nothing that should give people the heebie-jeebies about what the Jets are playing, the way the Jets are playing right now. Yeah. This Blackhawks team does not look like a National Hockey League team when you look at the roster that they're coming. And yet, these last two games, they beat the Calgary Flames and somehow held the Edmonton Oilers to 15 shots against. You know, we've kind of talked about how this has been a no-excuses team. They do the same thing night in and night out. And I'm not suggesting it is a trap game, but I will suggest that evidence shows in these last two nights for the Blackhawks that they're not giving anything away for free, and the Jets are going to need to come and play as they have consistently pretty much all season.
Here's the thing, Huss, about teams that appear to be AHL teams. All those guys are trying their hardest, right, to show something, to earn an next contract, to whatever it is, right? Like, I think we always underestimate these sort of quote-unquote AHL teams because of that, right? Because, you know, it's players nobody's ever heard of and all that. But these guys, and I mean, let's do a comparison here. Look at Winnipeg's fourth line, right? Probably all three of those guys. I mean, maybe not Morgan Barron, but, you know, a couple of those guys are easily AHL players when this team is fully healthy. And we know that because we've seen it. But they come in and they do well, and they're trying their best. Like, I'm not saying they're playing harder than anybody else on the ice, but they certainly have a whole lot more to prove. And I think that's the case for Chicago, and the reason why that, you know, I think teams naturally take those types of teams for granted sometimes, or I'm not saying every team gets complacent, but I'm saying that you don't maybe fully expect what you're actually facing until either it's too late or it's, you know, there's just a time where these guys just, I mean, I find these teams to be fascinating at times because I'm not saying that they're not cup contenders. They wouldn't make the playoffs most of the time, but every night out, they're going to give you kind of the hardest game that you've probably played, or not the hardest game, but one of the harder games, just because they don't really have a whole lot to lose, but they have a lot to gain. And those can be some of the more dangerous teams at times, you know, as you sort of alluded to. And so, I mean, I don't think this Jets team is susceptible to trap games anymore. I just don't think. I think that's been beaten out of their system or out of their vernacular or whatever. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you have to give them some respect, and I think the fact that they have beaten a couple teams, or at least, you know, beat one team, also held maybe the two of the best shooters to so few shots in the league, like I think that's enough that'll wake up any team, right? And I think for a Jets team that's been very cognizant of their opponents all season, I don't expect them to fall into a trap, but I do expect, like, this is the quintessential kind of setup for a trap game if we've looked at years past and all that. I just don't think this Jets team is sort of susceptible.
T. Will sort of busted me in the chat. I said it isn't not a trap game, which is kind of like Ryan Hartman saying, I didn't intentionally stick Cole Perfetti in the face.
Double negative.
Well done, T. Will. I think everyone knows what they're saying. Got to be ready to play against any opponent in the National Hockey League, and I'm confident the Jets will be. By the way, shout out to NBHA Ball Hockey. Thank you very much for the super chat. We really do appreciate it. We heard from Scheifele this morning, and I know you were in the building. I mean, I was in the seats, and it was a little eerie when he got hit. And I thought the way that he got up and skated back that, it
sign.
wasn't. Yeah. But I mean, listen, the minute you hear a beloved former Jet, Brian Little's name mentioned when we're talking about an injury. It's scary. We all know how that ended up, and unfortunately, we never got a chance to see Brian Little play again in the National Hockey League. But everyone's temperature, I think, went down a little bit when he was out there after the game, and he will be out there today. But the guy that wasn't out there was Axel Jonsson-Fjällby. What do we know about his status right now for the game tonight? And I guess the contingency plan if he can't go.
Yeah, sick is what he is. I don't know what he's dealing with, but he has an illness in that regard. And so if he doesn't go, the Jets are going 11-7. They don't have an extra forward right now, right? So, I mean, they could call somebody up, but it's too late now to do it. They would have had to done it last night. The Moose are out in Belleville or maybe in Laval now, getting ready for their next game. So yeah, they'll go 11-7 tonight. I believe Logan Stanley came off early of the kind of three defensemen they have there. I mean, obviously Vili's not going to play. He was sent down today. And Declan Chisholm was out for a little bit longer with Vili today. So I assume it's Logan Stanley that would come in as that seventh defenseman if that's the case. But he's a game time decision. Rick Bowness didn't talk this morning. We were all kind of told as we walked into the dressing room the update on Jonsson-Fjällby. So yeah, nothing will change. I mean, it'll just be the three lines that you normally have, and then they'll kind of rotate a forward. It was interesting to see Kyle Connor. I spoke briefly to Kyle Connor this morning, just asking him about everything. He's obviously wearing a knee brace and all that. He's doing good. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting to see. It's been interesting to watch Kyle Connor out there. He was out on the ice 3 weeks, and one of the things he said, I mean, was a little bit just he wanted to start to skate again. He said, you just get kind of upset just sitting around doing nothing. But yeah, I mean, to me, he's sort of ahead of schedule. We'll see how that pans out. But
did you ask him at all what it's been like watching this team put up win after win?
I tried not to. I know we're not supposed to talk to injured guys, and injured guys don't talk, and so everything I would talk to him about was kind of off the record. But he's happy. Let's just say that. And I mean, I think he buys into the fact that this team sort of expects this, right? Like, this is the way this team has played. He played on it for X number of games before he got injured. He was the leading goal scorer. I mean, he was a big piece of the reason why this team was as good as it is. And so I don't think that he's surprised at all that this team has carried on just fine without him. Not saying that they don't want him back. They obviously do. I think the power play would love him back. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a surprise. And I mean, that's sort of the swagger about this team. When you're talking to them, like, nothing really surprises them about the way that they're playing, and that's a good thing, right? They're not cocky about it. That's not what it is. But there's a healthy level of confidence in that room, and I think that extends even to the guys like Kyle Connor, who would have expected the team to carry on without him and play like they have, and that's exactly what they've done.
Yeah, it just must be, I mean, for any player to get injured and see your team go on an absolute tear, even a player as important as the Jets' leading goal scorer, I think it would
be harder if it was a fourth line guy, right? Then you're like, my job, like, this is the problem.
Pretty
with
sure there's
right
a
now.
Spot for KFC when he's healthy.
Yeah. Kyle Connor's coming right back into a top six role, maybe even a top line role when he gets healthy again, right? So I'd be more. Yeah, this is the problem with Vili now that we're seeing. And I know this is the thing about when the team's winning, we're not seeing, at least I haven't seen on Twitter, and I've been on Twitter a little bit today, I'm not seeing, they should be having him in, and Vili should be right back in the lineup, and blah, blah, blah. We're not seeing a lot of these sort of this kind of discourse right now because the team is playing so well, and I think a lot of people respect the fact that Nate Schmidt took and took it on the chin when he got benched there for a couple games and came back and is playing some of the best hockey that he's probably played in Winnipeg, right? So, yeah, it's just a totally. I hate the word vibe, I really do, but it's a different vibe, man. It is. It's a different feeling around this team. Talked a little bit of Adam Lowry about that this morning, and we sort of talked about it. This is sort of a bit of a tangent. We'll get to obviously the Chevy, but it's like growing, right? Like when I grew, I never noticed growing, like getting bigger and getting up to 6 feet or whatever. and Lowry is 6'5", and so we're kind of talking about like nobody else noticed, like we don't notice it, but everybody else notices it, right? And so maybe within the team they don't notice kind of the changes as much as maybe the outside does. So kind of an interesting bit of foreshadowing to a story I'll have coming. But it has been interesting just kind of being around this team, and it's hard again. It's sort of hard to describe. It's sort of one of those or if you got to be there kind of for it. But I think people can see it on the ice, right? Like every night you go to all the game sites, what we're talking about. Like you see this team playing. And yeah, I mean, it sort of spills in, and probably a good segue to Cheveldayoff today. But yeah, it's been interesting to watch. It was interesting to watch Kevin Cheveldayoff today. It was interesting to watch how sort of that might be his most, I think I tweeted out, his most impassioned or passionate press conference in a long time. And I'd have to go back and watch something from 2017-18. But that one, like there wasn't the defiance that we saw at the end of last season where he said it himself. He probably frustrated some people and all that. You played that clip. We're not seeing that from him. But yeah, well, let's get into it if you want to. But yeah,
first of all, it's funny you mentioned the word vibe, and I find myself kind of using that too because I mean, it's appropriate. But I think maybe we can go to the more professional, a positive atmosphere around the club right now. Let's go with that. It's a longer word. It looks and sounds better. The bottom line is right now that everything's going the Winnipeg Jets the way, and they just want to keep this going. We talked about what a big opportunity it was with the schedule once they got through that Minnesota series and the game against Tampa. These teams ahead of them, and as I said, I'm pretty sure. And again, I don't want to say this 100% because I'm not sure whether they take into the Saturday games or not. But this weekend, they will establish the coaches for the All-Star game. And with a win tonight, the Winnipeg Jets, I think, can all but send bones to the All-Star game. And listen, if Morrissey's not going to be there and Ehlers and Scheifele aren't going to be there, we know Hellebuyck will be. I'm not sure there's another more deserving individual to be there, and Rick will be one of the most popular people, I imagine, there, even if there's probably absolutely nothing to do as a coach in the 3-on-3 competition. But as far as Chevy goes, and you sort of touched on this, listen, we've heard it's not like he speaks all the time throughout the year. I mean, there are some sort of planned moments that he'll come out, and at times it has been trying times for the Winnipeg Jets. At others, it has been exciting, and there's been a lot of good things going, but it's never really been like this. I mean, in the midst of this historic stretch the team is on with their defensive play and on top of the league. And, while it was quite obvious, I joked that he should have walked in with the Vince McMahon strut and said, what do you guys want to talk about? But, it was the focus of this team that we hear from Rick Bowness and the players every day. I think we also heard it from the general manager in saying something. We haven't accomplished anything yet. I mean, they're not the Philadelphia Eagles hanging up the Week 12 champion banner of the NFL. Lots of work to go, but honestly, I mean, you really could see just how pleased and frankly, I think how proud he is of this group. Because let's face it, the end of last season, there were tons of questions about this team, where it was going, and he almost defiantly put his reputation on the line, saying that they believe in this squad, and this squad is rewarding him tenfold with the confidence that he put in them.
Well, and it's funny. It's funny that you let off with the Billy Strutt and the Vince McMahon thing, the Conor McGregor thing, and all that. And I this is the difference between last spring, where I thought he didn't walk in with that sort of thing, but he was very defiant to a lot of tough questions that were asked that day. Today, there was a humbleness to Kevin Cheveldayoff, and he even said it himself. Like, I think he has been humbled over the time. He talked a little bit about luck today. I thought that was really interesting, but he could have came in there and be like, I told you guys, I told you so, right? But he didn't. And I, that's interesting because not that he would ever do that. Like, I don't know if he's ever been cocky in that way. He's obviously been defiant, like I said. But I found him to be level, right? Like, I think he understood the reality. He said it, like the company line for the last little while is, we haven't done anything yet. That was, I believe, and I'm just scrolling up into all the questions of transcribing that we did. But I think he said that in either in the first or the second question that he was asked, the answer, he said that. And I thought that was an important thing to say, because it really, we don't talk to Mark Chipman, but it really, from top down now, everybody's saying that. And one of the things I talked to Adam Lowry about a little bit this morning was how you walk into that room or you talk to the head coach or Scott O'Neill, whoever we've talked to this year, and it all sounds the same. And that's not a negative. It's a sign of a team pulling all in the same direction and doing all of those things, right? Like everything is kind of under one umbrella, and everybody's kind of working within the system. So it was interesting to listen to him and talk to him about the humbleness and talking to him. I mean, at one point he was even a little bit, I think he was trying to sell some tickets, Huss. Like, I mean, he was talking about the investment and how invested they are and that sort of thing. And, it's interesting. Like, it's not my job to sell tickets. I don't think it's your job to sell tickets. I mean, you have a different kind of platform and the way that you handle things. And for me, that's not my job. I mean, that's their job to sell tickets. But I got to say this, Huss, like, and I get it. Like, I understand. I totally understand. Like, people tell me on Twitter all the time, it's inflation. There's all sorts of things, right? But for entertainment value right now, and I totally understand. I get into the games for free, right? But most people also don't have to write and sit there and don't get to have a beer and don't get to do whatever. Like this team's worth the price of admission right now, right? And they have been for quite some time. Like, you're going to come and watch a hockey game on almost every night. Like, I can't remember the last time this Jets team put up a dud at home. And I think if I had to pick one, it was either Dallas 2-0, although I thought that was a good game, but probably the 5-1 loss to Los Angeles. But if I think there's a reason to be excited about your Winnipeg Jets right now. If you're a fan, there's a reason to spend your money and go on to a night and maybe not go to that movie or not go to whatever right now, because this team is worth watching. Like, you're going to cheer for some goals on the night. More likely than not right now, you're going to cheer at the end of the game for a win. You're going to see 2, maybe 3 stars come out of the end of the game and salute the crowd, right? Like, I think this team, they've built it, right? And I think they're still waiting for it to come. And so, I think that was part of maybe the most impassioned part of Kevin Cheveldayoff's answer to a question today was about the investment. And I think they're right. I mean, they've put the work into it. I think they've been humbled, as they said, as Kevin Cheveldayoff said. I think that's come from the top down, not just on the hockey ops thing, but everywhere else. Because when you have all those empty seats, I mean, you got to start asking some of the tough questions to yourself. Same when you're not winning, you got to ask some of the tough questions to yourself. And so we've seen it. I think in hindsight now, we look at how this team has been built, and Cheveldayoff didn't take credit for that. He's not like, he didn't say today that, oh yeah, I knew when I was getting Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt, or when I went out and got Nino Niederreiter and Vlad Nemestikov. Like, he wasn't saying at that point that he knew like that was going to kind of transform this team, because when he got some of those guys, or at least the Nemestikov and the Niederreiter, you don't know if you're going to re-sign those guys. You might have traded them in the offseason because it wasn't going well, and you didn't know. He didn't know. We talked a little about Thanksgiving today and those 2 big contracts that they signed, because, and again, tying this back to talking a little bit of Adam Lowry, that steadied the ship. I think when we look back at the season, whether it ends in a Stanley Cup or it doesn't or whatever, you're going to look at this season and think, okay, there wasn't this massive distraction going into it. There wasn't all that. And I think, a lot of those things were kind of touched on today by Cheveldayoff, because we've kind of seen now over the past 40 games or so and the preseason and training camp of how this team is sort of starting to get built like a championship team.
Well, and I'll go, hey, Scott, I'll go one further. Yeah. I'll go one further on that. I think we'll be looking back at Thanksgiving Day of 2023 as, in 2 years, in 4 years, in 5 years, as maybe the most important single day, certainly moving forward for the franchise, that we've seen. And you're exactly right. Like, what it did to the noise around the Winnipeg Jets was essentially silence all of it. And it took away so many of the questions. And like we said, for individuals like Scheifele in particular, all right, the contract's done. You've made your decision. You've committed to the Jets. They've committed to you. There's only one thing left to do, and that's go out and win hockey games. And that is exactly what they're doing. And you have that certainty of those members of the core that are so important that are going to be there. And I mean, from Cheveldayoff's perspective, it completely changes the game as far as your ability to plan long-term, to look at even a short period of time like this one season, what you have the ability to do adding at the deadline, what sort of assets you're willing to give up and not, because your foundational pieces are in place. And those foundational pieces have been brilliant for 40 games.
Well, let's take it even maybe one step forward, or one step adjacent to that too. What does it do for a guy like I'm starting, just starting to think about how this has affected guys like Mark Scheifele or whatever, right? Because if we listen to Mark Scheifele over the last 2 years prior to this one, the biggest thing he talked about was he wants one, he wants to win, and the other thing was he wanted to know the direction of this team. You're not rebuilding when you commit $60 million to two different guys over the next 2 years or next 7 years on 7-year deals when they're both are 30 already. Like, that's not going to be a rebuild, right? So I think what those deals did, like the commitment that you were going to make to those guys, and I'm not even talking about what Kevin Cheveldayoff said to those guys or the revealing of the plan or whatever it was, but just the fact that you're doing that is a commitment to winning, because you're locking up two guys that aren't going to be off their deals until they're 38 or 39, a couple of them, because they haven't even kicked in yet. And so you're not going to be rebuilding over the next 7 or 8 years, right? Unless something really, whatever happens, and you find a way to trade those guys away. The plan right now, from now on, is to try and win and try and get those guys a cup. And I think that was, again, it will start with whenever the negotiations and that plan was unveiled. But the fact that those guys re-signed both of them, when we had heard from even insiders that was never going to be the case, right? We had heard from, I forget who it was, but they said the ship had sailed on Connor Hellebuyck, right?
That was the quote. That was the quote.
That was it. The ship had sailed, right? And so, yeah, it's really been interesting to kind of, like, I'd never gone through this as a reporter, and so you're kind of like, in the moment you're talking about, but yeah, you're starting to see, you're like a phone operator. You're starting to, okay, you're taking that wire out of here and sticking it in, a different place, and you're trying to, you're connecting the dots, right? And so, yeah, it's been interesting, and I think the fact that I think somewhere along the line, this is my opinion, somewhere along the line, and maybe it was when they were talking to, because I think they held some meetings with John Tortorella. I'm not entirely sure it had anything to do with the coaching, like the coaching gig. I don't know if that was ever going to become the case here, but I think there was a lot learned in that meeting about how other teams kind of run things and stuff. And then that set in motion when they went through this whole coaching hiring process with Barry Trotz and Rick Bowness. I think this team finally found a different view, a different worldview, let's say, on how hockey teams are built and constructed on the ice, off the ice. And I think we're starting to see, well, we are seeing some of the fruits of that labor now coming into play. It starts with Rick Bowness. I think it starts with other guys too, like Scott O'Neill. Just to jump back to the All-Star thing, I think if Rick Bowness goes, I think it'd be a nice, I don't want to call it a tribute. It's not a tribute. It'd be a nice gesture to bring Scott O'Neill along with him if he could, because Scott O'Neill, came in and stepped in for however many games he did. It was quite a few. And I think he deserves to be there too, because again, the whole coaching staff deserves to be there. I'm not entirely even sure who gets to actually go. I think it's just the head coach, but either way,
Get Arnie a spot on the plane too. He
should be there. Yeah,
absolutely deserve it. Hey, by the way, thanks Stonewall Dave. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you very much for the super chat, and great to see the chat blowing up as always. Well over 600 people in here. If you are new, welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk. We're here every day, 1 o'clock on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and if you want to get the audio version, if you're not able to join us on YouTube, just search Winnipeg Sports Talk wherever you get your favorite podcasts. follow or subscribe there, and we'll have the fresh content coming in around 3:30 every day as soon as we finish the show, just in time for your drive home if you're rocking a 9 to 5. Billeck, great stuff as always, man. We'll see you down at the rink, and enjoy this one today and what should be a good one on Saturday night against the Flyers as this homestand continues.
Yeah, appreciate you, Huston. Appreciate the chat as always. So
good stuff. There's Scotty Bill.
Take your medicine when Josh comes on later. I guess you teased that a little bit on there.
Yeah, well, hey, I had a great season. Far better to be in the final than to not be.
To be where I was, yeah.
But I'm looking forward to talking to Josh because I know he's a big Packer guy, and I'm fascinated by this Packer-Cowboy matchup. We'll get to all the NFL talk later on. But coming up, maybe the star of the weekend, Chuck Hellebuyck on the program, and I know a lot of people look forward to this. This is a really interesting conversation. As much as we're going to talk about the dad's trip, some fascinating stuff about Connor as a young man and a developing goaltender, and the only person that would have this sort of insight is the dad. So we've got that coming up. Yeah. Anyways, you have a great one, buddy. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
And again, so I mean, this is, I think you all are going to really enjoy this conversation with Chuck Hellebuyck, who we sort of all met on the weekend via his tweets, rolling with the rest of the Jets dads and mentors on the dad's trip. And by the way, Rucker McGroarty will be on the show tomorrow. We've hooked up with Rucker. We figured we've got Chuck today. We're going to play that. And then tomorrow, fresh off his gold medal at the World Junior Championships, arguably the Jets' #1 prospect, Rucker McGroarty, on the show tomorrow. So do not miss our Friday episode, and stay tuned for Chuck in just a minute. As just before we welcome in the father of the best darn goalie on the planet, we were just talking about the continued work to do that the organization has via attendance. I will say this to you. The answer to all of this is to get back and regain the season tickets that were lost over the last couple seasons. And that, I believe, is the #1 priority right now of the organization. If you are a lapsed season ticket holder, or frankly, someone that wasn't in a position before, but maybe are right now, whether in a full or in sharing, get in touch with the Winnipeg Jets, or help give us an email at winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com, and I'll help put you in touch with some folks. That is how this is going to be solved. I mean, the stress on any organization trying to fill 3,000 seats a game, on Tuesday nights throughout the winter is tough. And listen, the long-term viability of the franchise depends on it, and that is just simply a fact. So let's hopefully see some more butts in seats. Certainly, this will be a great crowd tonight, and I think a lot of that is Bedard related. We've got some seats available on Saturday. That one should be full. Saturday night game against Philly. And then next Tuesday night, and again, there's great deals on Tuesday night games as well. We saw a pretty good crowd on there. I mean, it always kind of seems more than maybe you see that final number, but the bottom line is this team is getting the job done, and it would be great to see maybe some of the folks that had, for whatever reason, not been able to get out to the rink earlier this season, get back in there. And I think that positive momentum, both on the ice and in the stands, will only be good for the organization. It's incredibly important. So winnipegjets.com/tickets. Let's see out at the rink and keep this thing rolling with positive momentum on the ice and in the stands for the Winnipeg Jets. Got to thank our friends at Wallace & Wallace. You know that they're the fencing and overhead door specialists. Man, we're into 2024. Been doing it for almost 80 years, since 1946. They've been serving residential and commercial customers. And of course, we've seen their fences and trucks all over the city. What you might not know, though, is that they are the leaders in overhead garage doors. As the Clopay dealer in Manitoba, the largest selection for your home. But with it getting pretty darn cold coming up over these next few days, this is the part of the year where your garage door will work the hardest. And the right time to prevent downtime this winter is right now. You can give Wallace & Wallace a call to book your inspection and maintenance service. Call today for residential and commercial overhead door sales and service. There's only one name or two you need to know, and that is Wallace & Wallace. And of course, guys, we've been talking a lot about the new year. No one's looking as good as the Winnipeg Jets right now, but if you want to look as good as you can in the new year, get on down to F Apparel and talk to the fellas about maybe an upgrade in your menswear department. F Apparel features beautiful custom made to fit suits starting at just $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the biggest and best selection of menswear accessories in town. And by the way, if you've got an especially big year, i.e. tying the knot this year, or in a wedding party, make sure to talk to the guys at F Apparel about a 15% discount when you and your fellas get done up for the big day at F Apparel. Pop by and see them, 190 Smith Street downtown, or check them out online and make an appointment if you want at that's EPHapparel.com. All right, looking forward to having Josh Frey-Sam. We'll kick around a little NFL talk, and the big news today that Bill Belichick is out with the New England Patriots. But first up, by popular demand, a social media star on the weekend, a very interesting and successful YouTube channel, and most importantly, the father of Connor Hellebuyck of the Winnipeg Jets. Now on Winnipeg Sports Talk, we welcome in Chuck Hellebuyck. Chuck, thanks so much for doing this, and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. This is a thrill. I watch you guys all the time, and just to be on here is an honor.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. That's nice of you to say. I got to tell you, a lot of people became fans of your social media stream. And we'll kind of talk about some of the fun tweets. But overall, man, the team is playing so well. I can't think of a better time to get the dads and mentors together for a trip. It sure seemed like you guys had a great time on the road last weekend.
It was great. I'm glad it went well, because if it didn't, we'd be kicked out, right? So, but no, it was great. They treat us so well, and it's great to be part of it. And the guys get along so great, and the dads are all a lot of fun to hang with. It was just a great time.
You know, I mean, and we'll kind of talk about being a hockey parent, particularly a goalie parent in a minute, but bringing the guys all together, did you know any of the other dads beforehand, or the folks there? Was it sort of everyone met each other and then became a big crew for the next 4 days?
Yeah, well, it's changed so much over the years. This was my third dad trip, and Brad Scheifele, that was his fourth. So Brad and I knew each other really well, but everyone else was kind of, didn't know him as well, or we'd see him in the family lounge occasionally at games, but to have them all together, there's a lot of new dads and a lot of new players, and it was fun to sit and hear their stories and talk to everybody. It was great.
Few things are more fun right now for people around here, and I'm sure you as well, than watching the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, not only did you get to experience an incredible time with your friends and sons, but this team just keeps on winning night in and night out, and they did it 3 times for you guys on the road.
Yeah, they're just clicking, and there's, you watch and you go, there isn't really, one line. It's 4 lines, and it's hard to tell which one's on the ice, because they play so strong and so equally, and back check and play defensively. It's a joy to watch.
I've got to ask you, whether you're on a dad's trip or, you're at another time during the season when you get the opportunity to do it, what's it like watching your son play goaltender in the National Hockey League?
It's, I tell everybody, it's really not a lot different than what everyone else sees. I just get a front row seat. I get to behind the scenes comments. I get to, hear about it after the game. I don't dive into his details, and it's his business. It's his job. I'm not going to try to interfere. I'm not going to, I don't know nothing about playing goalie. But I love watching him chase his dream. And it's a dream he's had from the time he was like 5 years old. He told me he wanted to be a goalie, and to see him achieve that is just, it's a great feeling. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just a great feeling.
You know what? Your Jet fans right now have a great feeling watching what he and his teammates are doing night in, night out. I want to get into a little bit more about Connor's background and his path here in a second. But as far as the trip goes over the course of the weekend, I mean, I think clearly the 3 games were highlights, especially that last one in Arizona. I think they played so much hockey. People were wondering, man, can they do it again with the schedule? And I mean, they just blew their doors off. But from your perspective, along with the other fellas on the trip, I mean, what were the highlights for you guys that stood out?
Oh God, I honestly, I think it's just being a part of it. being that close to it, riding on the plane with it. The thing is that the tweets that I put out, I started it as really just to let my YouTube channel, my followers know that, hey, I'm not going to be putting up content. This is why I get to go on this trip, because a lot of them know I'm Connor's dad. And but as I'm going, you go on a bus to the plane, a plane to a bus, and a bus to the airport, or to the hotel, and you get in late, and then they get up early and they do their thing, and then you take the bus to the rink and play the game, and then a bus to the air. It's just this constant. And you get to get to the room at 2 a.m. and it's a grind. It's a grind. I know they're paid well, but it's a grind, and that's what I think as fathers we all learn and share in that experience, and then we don't have to play the game yet. We come out of it exhausted, So that's really what the tweets kind of became. Is I said, well, there's a story here, and like any video or anything, you try to tell a story, and that's kind of what the story was. I was trying to tell you is look what goes on behind the scenes. It's the travel, and well, that's I just walked into my hotel room, took a picture, and fell into a strange bed for the third, fourth night.
It is. I mean, it is quite an operation, and not only do you see what your sons and the players are doing, but there's a lot of other people that have a hand in all of that and getting from point A to point B. I mean, you think about the trainers, the equipment guys. I mean, it's pretty interesting if you have the opportunity to see everything that goes into NHL hockey from the guys that the average fan has no idea who they are or what they do.
It's such an operation, like you said, that the trainers and the equipment guys, and you get to see them, talk to them, but they're so busy. They are always going, always working. Krev, who organizes the whole thing, just does a fantastic job. And it's just such an operation, and you feel part of it. And so, but you don't want to interfere. You don't want to get in the way. But it's really a lot that this whole team, by that I mean everybody, goes through, going from spot to spot, and it's just a great experience. It really is a great experience. I'm glad I've been able to do it now more than once. Like Connor told me when I was invited, he says, "Dad, you want to do it again?" I said, "Sure." He goes, "You're going to be the old timer now because you've done this more than anybody else other than Scheifele." So it was
Veteran.
Cool.
Well, kind of funny you mentioned Scheifele and yourself. Here's to many more fathers trips with the Winnipeg Jets in the future, with your son signing those identical deals with the Thanksgiving Day gift. Chuck Hellebuyck's with us, and I'm sure most of you have already seen these tweets and whatnot, but make sure to check out at Chuck Hellebuyck on Twitter. And we'll talk a little bit later on about his YouTube channel and presence, which is particularly interesting to guys like us that are in this space right now. But Chuck, overall, Connor, we've been covering this team since they came back, literally since he started as an NHL goaltender. And longtime listeners, he has always been my favorite person to listen to, because, I mean, this is not to get on anyone else, but, a lot of times, sometimes hockey players come with pretty standard cliches. He is as thoughtful and as honest, frankly, as any player that we've had here for a long time. And goalies are different to begin with, and I think you would agree on that. But take us back. I mean, you mentioned that he said he wanted to be a goaltender like when he was around 5. How did he get into hockey? How big was hockey as part of his and his siblings growing up? And give us a little idea about his path, because it is a road less traveled, I think we can safely say, when it comes to becoming a Vezina Trophy winner.
Yeah, I was probably more of a hindrance than a help along the way, but my nephew would have a birthday party every year. We'd play street hockey, and he played ice hockey. So the boys grew up watching us play. I mean, the adults out there and with kids, we'd play this once a year roller hockey game. It was so much fun. And then eventually they got old enough that they could play, and we would play on rollerblades and play on shoes, but they started playing. So his older brother was just a natural skater, just phenomenal shot and stick handler and everything. So I got him involved in roller hockey in the local YMCA, and Connor would watch, and he told me, he says, "Dad, when I get to play, I want to be goalie." And they would shoot at each other. Chris would do breakaways on Connor, and they would just do this back and forth, and then they include me, and we just you get a point for a goal, you get a point for a stop, and it was back and forth. And they did that, and then they played roller hockey and had a ton of success. And people said, you need to take these kids to ice. And I can't afford that, but find a way. And so they did house hockey for a number of years. Travel teams would call, and I'm like, I can't split these kids up and do this stuff. And but we eventually, I had to, because they'd gone to states a couple times, and fortunately silver medal both times. But and they went to travel and just kept achieving.
Like, how old was he when I mean, this is a fascinating story, starting with roller hockey, then going to essentially like a fun house league to play with your brother, to playing at a much more competitive level. Like, what time did that transition happen for Connor?
I mean, let's see. The roller started at 5. By about 7 years old, I think we started transition to ice. And then I think around 10 years old, maybe 11, he had to go to travel, because house just wasn't doing it anymore. And then he played travel. Both of them played travel, which made it tougher because they were on separate teams at that point. And then high school. Finally, he just went from there to high school as a freshman. He made the varsity team as a goalie, and then they played together again on the high school team. And
that must have been awesome for you.
Awesome, just incredible. I did some of my best memories, and every step of the way, it's been I coached. I was his goalie coach early on, defensive coach. That coach put me in charge of that, because no one understands. Most coaches don't understand goaltending. Not to say I'm no expert, but most of them don't understand goaltending. So he put me in charge of that, and we worked with him. But it took me about 5 minutes to teach him what I knew about goaltending, and then he figured it out himself. That's been his path. And I'd offer him, hey, let's go to this camp. He'd watch the camps, and he goes, no, Dad, no, they're just going to change my game. Don't waste your money on that. He knew what he wanted. He would study it on his own. He'd figure it out on his own. It's one story I told her is we're in the hockey shop, and he's over looking at player sticks. He's looking at which 2-piece blades were new, and he's looking at the twist of the blade. I go, what are you doing there? Why don't you go look at the goalie sticks? He goes, and he points it at me. He says, Dad, look at this stick. Look at this blade. It's twisted. He says, where do you think that puck's going if they shoot? Now, he's about 10 years old maybe at this point, maybe 11. And I go, well, unless they screw up the shot, it's going up. He goes, exactly. I want to know every one of these blades. I want to remember every one of these blades. So when I see that blade, I know exactly where the puck's going. And I just went, so okay, cool. Kid, do what you want to do. Because he's just studied the game. That's just the way he was and the way he is. He still does it. So.
Chuck, so he's playing high school with his brother, which was a dream, I'm sure, for you and the family. Then he goes to Odessa, Texas. I can't imagine a bigger difference than playing at home with your brother to be playing in Texas. How did all that happen? What was it like for you as a dad?
Nerve-wracking. I had no idea how this worked. His older brother went to a few camps, juniors camps, did pretty well. Connor would tag along, but he got to a few camps, but we had no idea how it worked. And then there was one of the coaches, high school coaches, was actually a USHL scout, and he set up a tryout out in Omaha. I forget the team, but anyway, we had to fly out there, drive out, get there, and we thought this, opportunity. And the goalie coach wasn't even there. Goalie coach was in Wisconsin. The head coach really almost showed no interest. And so they just let him practice. And so I'm like, okay, this is a high school kid against USHL players. Let's see what he's got. And he was stoning them. He was mad because they didn't take it serious. So he would just go, I'm going to show you. And he was just stoning these kids. And it ended up him in the back. The starting goalie didn't want anything to do with it. And the backup goalie and him were going this one-on-one against the players. And they're slapping their sticks, getting frustrated. They can't beat this high school kid. And he got off that ice and he said, Dad, let's go. They're not taking me serious. Let's go. And but it was probably the best thing that could have happened, because then he went to other camps knowing that he had the ability to play at this level, but he had to show them. And he didn't get drafted, and that put a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And then when he got the call to come out to the training camp for Odessa, which was actually in Minnesota, it was a team that moved from Minnesota down to Odessa. And he drove the 13 hours, gave him the family car. Here, so you got a good car, and do what you can do, kid. And he went out there on the ice the first time. And Joe Clark, who was the the coach or the general manager and the goalie coach, he pulled him off the ice like after the first day. He said, "We should have drafted you, kid. Just go." He went fishing. He brought his fishing pole. He went fishing because he said, "You're on the team. We were going to work with other kids. We've seen enough." So he made the team right there. And then the 10 shipped him off to a host family in Texas. I had no idea where this is going to go. You're nervous for your kid, but he's chasing his dream. He was third goalie going down there. And then the first goalie got into some trouble and he was sent home. And the second goalie played, I think, the first 2 games. About the third game, Connor took over and never looked back.
He is, I'm still thinking about that story you were talking about as a 10-year-old, like evaluating all the sticks. He is as cerebral as a player as we've had, but also incredibly driven. Obviously got drafted by the Jets out of Odessa, but at what point as a dad did you think that this dream of playing goaltender for a living, might be coming true? I mean, fill us in on, at what point this went from something he really liked to do to something that was incredible focus to something that not only could be a career, but he could be one of the best in the world.
I think it really, for me, it hit in the AHL. I mean, what he did in college was phenomenal. My goal was for both the kids. I said, if you can, help get a college degree, played partially, that's a success. So anything beyond that was a bonus. But when it was a tough call to leave college early, for me, more for me than him, he knew. But when he went to AHL, and I forget who the other goalie that they just brought in, it was played for Colorado. Sorry, I'm forgetting the name, but he outplayed him and took over that team. And I could see his positioning, how he was reading the puck, how he was reading things the same way he always did. And I said, he's got it. If this is the AHL, if this is a professional, he's not going to be here long. That's when I started to really believe what he'd been telling me for years. I'm going to make it. That's when I realized you worry about your kids. You over worry about your kids. But at that point, I was like, I don't have to worry anymore. He's going to find a way.
Well, he's not only found a way, but he's been the backbone of this team and organization really on the ice for the better part of the last 6-7 years. This was a big year and a big offseason and a huge decision. What was it like for you to be, I'm sure talking to him about what's going to happen, and how did it all go over when he and his teammate Mark Scheifele both re-up to try and win a Stanley Cup here in Winnipeg with 7 more years after this season? Yeah,
business decisions like that, I do try to stay out of it. I go back to the college when it was trying to decide whether to leave early, and I didn't play him at AAA, so he didn't get really discovered. So I kind of hurt him, and maybe my advice, as far as leaving college early or not, may not been the best sometimes. And so I've learned just let the professionals, his agent Ray was great. Work it through. I get bits and pieces, you always hope they're closer to home so I can see my grandkids more often and stuff. But Winnipeg is just, it's been a great home, and they've treated us so well. It was just, I was always in the running, always. And they just worked it out. And then to get the offer that he did, and then tied in with Scheifele. We love the Scheifele. We love the Scheifele. They're great people, and Mark's a great kid, and it's just, it was kind of, you could see it was coming, it just, but when he made the decision, and it was, he knew it was his decision, and it was the right decision for him and his family, and hasn't looked back. Look what always been playing since. It's just been, that's his home, and he wants to bring a cup home.
Chuck, what I think from a Jets fan's perspective, and people that are listening to this right now are probably even extra excited, in that Connor, seemingly from his entire life, has decided on things, has done everything he can to achieve them, and has, in a lot of ways, manifested them into existence. And we've all known what the biggest decision-making part of what was happening this summer is winning a Stanley Cup. And he said as much. He will win a Stanley Cup, and got to tell you what the way he and his teammates are playing right now looks like a good decision. And holy smokes, are they running right now? I do one more question though about him kind of growing up. because as I said, he's very interesting, very cerebral, and we'll get into kind of what you're doing on YouTube with electronics and stuff like that. When you think of him as a young, a boy turning into a man, what are the qualities of him that maybe have created this incredible goaltender? I mean, whether it's gifts, the talents that he has, or just qualities that he has, like asking questions and figuring things out. He seems to think the game in a very different way than most of the other hockey players we've talked to. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I think really deep down, it just comes down to the belief system that you can, if you, that he mentions the book or movie, The Secret. I brought that home to the kids because the idea, if you have a goal and you want to achieve it, you can achieve it. It's not going to be easy. It's not guaranteed, but if you want it, you can achieve it. His brother, great businessman, developed great business, and now he's going after, trying to become a professional fisherman. His sister's successful, engineer. But from a young age, he said he wanted to be a goalie. And I told both the kids, have a backup plan. And he says, Dad, I don't have one. I said, it's fine. It takes you time to discover it. He goes, no, I don't want one. It's going to distract me. I'm going to go until I make it. And that's the way he wasn't everything he wanted to do. Even in high school, there were parties to go to. If there was sticks and pucks where he could go practice, he was going to sticks and pucks. It was hockey came first. That's the way it was. They'd play pond hockey. That came first. Did fine in school. He got good grades and everything. He knew he had to get that done, but it just was, he knew what he wanted and he was going to achieve it. And that's really, we encourage that, but his mom and I encourage that, be good, but to everything, be good to people and everything else, but only you can determine your future, and make the right decisions, make the right choices, and make it work.
I've said for a long time, he seems like the most genuinely, authentically confident person I've ever talked to in my life. When did you notice that, and where does that confidence come from?
Oh God, I think it's kind of always been there. I mean, everyone goes through him. Well, he talks about the mental health stuff that he's got the book out, and he referenced how he was raised, just suck it up and move on, and yeah, that's kind of my fault in that respect too. It's like, you're going to get beat up, so stand up and keep going, because it's what you got to do. But sometimes you do need that help, and that's what he's discovered there too. And along the way, I think he got that through various means, talking to his mom, and sometimes talking to me, but talking to coaches or whatever. But to help him focus, and he's just developed that confidence, not overconfidence, but that confidence, that belief that you can achieve what you believe. And he's even said about, the hockey, he says it's the idea of believing that you can win. He says, even if you're losing, he says, if you start thinking about losing and how you can do this, you're going to start gripping the stick tighter. You're going to be doing things that overdo stuff. He says, and probably make things worse. He says, you got to think positive. You got to think like a winner, and then you'll start winning. And that's what drives him. That's his, if you talk to him now, he'd tell you that.
Chuck Hellebuyck, our guest on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I could pick your brain about Connor's background for hours right now. But before we go, I have to ask you about a side that a lot of Jet fans sort of discovered over the course of the past week, your presence on social media. Not necessarily, the fun tweets about what you and the dads are going through, but your YouTube channel. I can tell you, we sort of got pushed into this area through circumstance 3 years ago, and we've been growing it, and we kind of pull up this YouTube channel. I'm like, he's pushing 300,000 subs, and look at all this. Tell us a little bit about the Filament Friday. And full disclosure, folks, I did a deep dive on this channel last night. I feel like I actually know about 3D printing right now. Great place to start for it. But fill us in on what you're doing on the internet, the YouTube channel, and the passion for electronics.
Yeah, that's been my passion since I was a kid, and just doing electronics. I've been doing for almost 50 years now, but and it's part of my main job. But I've written 10 books on electronics, and then I did hundreds of articles from magazines, and then that started to die off. So everyone's going to YouTube. I was okay. Let's try this YouTube stuff. And my early videos were horrible, but I was trying to do electronics. But electronics, also some CNC, mill your own boards and 3D prints, print your own box and brackets. But the 3D printing just took off. And I'm like, okay, ride the wave, it's fun. And that's what I've been doing now for 10 years, is just helping people get started with 3D printing. Home 3D printers came out about 12 years ago. I've been doing this for 10. And just the whole thing was just about teaching people how to have fun doing the things that I like to do. It's 3D printing, print whatever you want. It's just been a lot of fun, and it kind of grew. I know when COVID hit, a lot of people bought 3D printers to print personal protection stuff, and I already had a series of videos on the printers that most were buying. I focused on the low-cost printers, and it just took off from there because everyone needed help, and they were coming to my videos, and it's really just exploded since then. But yeah, it's just been a labor of love. I've been able to take my hobby and expand on it and share it with an audience.
As impressive as the information in it, I have to admit, Michael and I were talking behind the scenes, the production in it's really neat. And you do that all yourself from an iPad.
Yeah. The whole thing, people are shocked by that. It's like, what camera do you use? And it's like, I started out just using an iPad, and I learned iMovie on the iPad for the editing. It's so easy because I don't have a lot of time. I still have a day job, so it's a sideline. And so I can edit it from anywhere. I can sit on the couch and edit. And I do have a separate microphone, so I get good sound quality. But yeah, I do it all from the iPad. And I've had people tell me, you need to get a better camera, and I'll get a better camera when my production, falters, and you let me know. And so far, it's everyone seems to like it, so I keep doing it.
Chuck, if people are interested to find out more, to check out the channel and find more about electronics and 3D printing and Filament Friday, fill people in on where they can find everything you're doing out there.
Yeah, the easiest way is just go to filamentfriday.com. It'll take you right to the YouTube channel, and then you can find more information there. Watch one of the videos. There's links in any of the video. It'll take you to other websites and stuff. But just filamentfriday.com will take you there. And if you're interested in the 3D printing, I do some electronics on there. And but and if you don't like my stuff, you get into there's other channels out there. But yeah, filamentfriday.com is my spot. It's my little niche, and maybe I'll get a few more people started in 3D printing.
Well, check it out, everybody. I mean, you kind of mentioned this right at the start, but I mean, this has really grown. I mean, as they say, you're at 292,000 subscribers, which is very significant. How many of them know, or did you get many emails like, wait a second, is your goalie the guy for the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, it's every year I get some that have been watching for a while, and then they like, wait, are you related? It's like, yeah, it's my son. Oh my God. And so, yeah, it's every year. But then there's some that have been following me for years and and now they become Jet fans. And so, yeah, it's a pretty, big community. There's 3D printing conferences that we all go to, and it's basically worldwide. There's people around the world I talk to that we're all into this hobby, and a lot of them know. Some of them don't even, follow hockey and know, But yeah, there's definitely that connection that is across. There's definitely a cross there. Some are hockey fans, some aren't, but they follow it all. But yeah, every once in a while, I'll get a comment. It's like, oh my God, I've been watching you for years. I didn't even know you're related. So.
Chuck, this has been so much fun having you on the program. Thank you for doing this. And I know it very well received by the fans. All the tweets were, people were hoping we could get you on and talk a little bit about what you're doing on the internet, but mostly about a certain offspring of yours that's won a Vezina trophy and is poised to even greater heights along with his teammates this season. What a great first half this year it's been, and I hope you enjoy it as much as we are right now. Thanks again for doing this, and all the best on the channel, and let's catch up again soon sometime.
Sounds great. We'll catch up when we bring home the cup. How about that?
Wow, that was a lot of fun with Chuck. What a great guest he was, and it certainly seemed like everyone was enjoying it in the chat. Thanks so much for all the kind words about that one, and again, a big thanks to Chuck Hellebuyck for jumping on. I still am absolutely blown away about that story about being in the sporting goods store when he was like 10 or 11 years old, evaluating the players' sticks. what an incredible mind that Hellebuyck has, and that's a big reason why he's the man. No Helly tonight, though. LB's going to get the start against the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll hit the Coolbet lines, and I am cooking up a little WST parlay. Let's see if we can go back-to-back after that nice win for what we served up on Tuesday. But before that, we're going to talk a little football. Some big news in the NFL, and some big games coming up on Super Wildcard Weekend. Before that, though, gang, huge thanks to our friends at Little Brown Jug, Winnipeg's #1 local brewery, featuring their flagship brand 1919 and my personal favorite, the generic lager. And good news, if you're at the game tonight or on Saturday or next Tuesday, they're both available now in the new craft beer corners, section 126 in the lower bowl, where that old Moxie's area used to be. Great spot to gather with friends at intermissions and grab yourself a generic or a 1919. And up in section 310 in the upper bowl. Don't forget, right now, generic lager, $19.99 for 8 packs of Tall Boys at your local beer store or Manitoba liquor marts. But the best place to try all the great beers from Little Brown Jug is at the brewery and tap room on William Avenue. Pop in there, enjoy a few, take home whatever you want, and check out their great merchandise as well. Again, littlebrownjug.ca online if you want to look into it. And they do have local delivery options if you don't want to leave your house, but you do want to stay home and drink some great beer. Hey, shout out to our friends at Royal Sports. Getting ready for this Chiefs game on the weekend. Many of you might be wanting to, maybe upgrade your NFL gear for the weekend. But I think what everyone's fired up about is this hockey team right now that's on top of the NHL. Was in there last night. There is so many options for Winnipeg Jet fans when it comes to merchandise, whether it's hats, hoodies, shirts, and tons of jerseys, all custom made with your favorite player's name and number. Got it there. And while you're there, check out a big bomber section. More from the Major League Baseball, NBA, biggest hockey section in town, and of course some other great stuff for the winter like snowboards, boots, and bindings. It's all at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. And follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Well, no Thursday nighters anymore in the NFL, but big Jet game tonight. Should be a great crowd. If you're not at the game, best place to be to watch it is getting together with your crew at your local Boston Pizza. Chow down on those world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, wash it down with a few ice-cold schooners with the big game on the big screen, and always with sound for the Winnipeg Jets. And hey, if you are staying at home because you don't want to go out tonight, you can get the great taste of Boston Pizza hot and fast to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And hey, while we look outside and see the snow coming down and know that it's cold, know that this won't last forever. Summer is around the corner, hopefully with a big, long playoff run. We're already getting excited for a trip to Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge again this summer. World-class, 5-star fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. And as great as the fishing is, and it's incredible, the only thing better is the incredible hospitality from the Aikens team, led by the Turan family. Find out more online, aikenslake.com, and hit them up on Instagram or Twitter to find out more about what's going on at Aikens Lake, at Aikens Lake. All right, very special guest coming up. You know him from his work in the Winnipeg Free Press, but unfortunately, after steamrolling through Michael Remis in the semis and yours truly in the finals, we have to introduce Joshua Frey-Sam not only as a writer for the Winnipeg Free Press, but also the champ of the Winnipeg Media Fantasy League. Josh, come on in. Welcome to WST. And publicly, we give you your due as the champion. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Huss. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate both you guys having me on here today. This is a lot of fun. And let me just quick sidebar here. You, by the way, you nail those ad readings every single time, man. You obviously got a lot of experience, and that is always good to hear you read those off. But anyways, boys, yeah, I still am just catching up on some sleep from the playoff run here, having to face Remis in the semifinals, and then you in the championship round led to some sleepless nights. A lot of overthinking, a lot of overanalyzing, but not a lot of sleep for me over the couple of weeks. So
well, and it's funny. I mean, we see your Rogers jersey on the back, and obviously Rogers is no longer a Packer, but I know you're a big Packer guy.
Yeah.
And is as great as it is to win a championship, even better with your guy doing the damage. And it was Jordan Love who was the final nail in my coffin in week 17.
Yeah, man, that was at the draft table. I know you and Remis couldn't make it to the draft. I think you guys had other drafts going on there when we hosted it over there at the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. But there was lots of trash talk in there, and I think I said I waited too long to grab a couple of quarterbacks because you guys had jumped on your quarterbacks nice and early. I waited till very late, and I grabbed Jordan Love, and I said to the table, I said, that's going to be my league winner right there. I really did, and that was ended up proving me right. So that was always good. But it was also the trash talk on Justin Tucker. I chipped up Justin Tucker really early. Justin Tucker ended up being good for me down the stretch. Go ahead.
Hey, you can never go wrong with Justin Tucker in your lineup. That is for sure. And let me ask you, obviously it's a fun fantasy side story, but the Packers started off 1-5. Everyone was going like, oh, geez. What have they done? Rodgers is gone. What's the future of this team? And then by, week 11 or week 12, we're watching that primetime game, and they're showing Love's stats in his first 11 starts to Aaron Rodgers' stats, and they were literally identical. And, I imagine as a Packer fan, you have to be incredibly fired up at what that young man's shown in his first year as a starter. And I think it's given some hope to the Cheeseheads going into a pretty tough place to play against a very good Dallas team this weekend.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a lot of fun this weekend because obviously Dallas is a good team, but we're going into a stadium that Packer fans, although this was pre-Jordan Love era, this was the Aaron Rodgers era, but the Packers have had quite a bit of success in this stadium over there, going there at in Jerry's World, where they won the Super Bowl in 2011. Aaron Rodgers had a boatload of success over there since then, facing Dallas in playoff games and very important high-stakes games as well. But now you carry it over into this era. Jordan Love is, like you mentioned, he's been unreal. He's been, I think, more than even fans could have hoped for. A lot of fans would have looked at this year, even myself included. I would have told you that could the Packers make the playoffs? For sure. But looking at this as more of a foundational year, foundational building year, going forward with the youngest roster in the NFL. And you saw that early on, right? Growing pains, lots of them, lots of mistakes happening. And then things just kind of started to click. And it was a lot of fun to watch. The offense started really rolling. The defense has been kind of a little bit of a problem from time to time. But the Packers overall, I think if you're a Packer fan, you're happy about the present, you're happy about the future. And really, some people might think they're playing with house money this week. But I mean, it's I think it's a good team. It's going to be a good game. It could be a track meet, actually, all said and done. Some people might be looking. You're talking about betting. You guys might be looking at betting the over in this one. There's could be a track meet with two good offenses.
It's funny you bring that up because the total for this game is 50.5, which I believe is the Lions, and of course that's in a dome as well. 52 in that Lions-Rams game. But that game opened, and we were in the lock shop on Monday, and we kind of were looking at the opening lines, and the one that really stood out to me was the Packers, who were getting 7.5. And there'd been a bunch of line movement. That one was stayed put. It's now down to 7. And I really do think that, as more people kind of dive into this game and look at what Green Bay's done in the second half of the season to get to this point, they're a frisky underdog right now. And any Packer would know Mike McCarthy is capable of screwing up a game on any given Sunday. If I'm a Packer fan right now, I'm pretty fired up about the opportunity to go in because I'm with you. If the Packers lose this game, I think the season overall is still going to be a success and they're moving forward in the right direction. This is no easy game for the Cowboys, though, even though they've been great at home in games that they've been favored in.
Yeah, well, and I think that's maybe where the points are coming from, is just as far as this is a team this season is averaging like 45 points a game at home or something, like just stupid, right? Like this is why I say it could be a track meet over there in Dallas. But at the same time, like you mentioned, Mike McCarthy, this is really him coaching for his life this weekend, right? Like if Dallas loses, if they're a one and done this week, is it going to be a shock to anybody? I think there's 7 or 8 coaching openings right now, coaching availability in the league right now, with Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll over the past 24 hours, both parting ways. Well, now there could be a 8th or 9th, whatever that would be now coming in if Mike McCarthy goes one and done in this playoffs. This is a big time weekend for the Cowboys, probably a bigger weekend for the Cowboys than it is for the Packers when you're looking at it in the grand scheme of things. But there's a ton of good games on the slate here, man, and there's a ton of good stories, and this is going to be a really good playoffs to talk about.
You know, we often joke about the script in the National Football League and, all those jokes over the past years. But I've been following and putting together what I call the script parlay in the AFC, which is the Browns, the Chiefs, and the Bills all winning, all favorites, to create a Browns-Ravens divisional game with Flacco going back to Baltimore and another matchup between Mahomes and Josh Allen. And that, I think, is basically plus 200 if you put those in over at Coolbet. But let's talk about the first game on Saturday. The Texans in their usual spot, or the AFC South winner in their usual spot in the warm-up game on Saturday afternoon. But, man, I mean, Houston, incredible story this year with what C.J. Stroud has done. And, I mean, this Joe Flacco, I mean, this is the stuff that movies are made of. And, I mean, how appropriate that it's with the Cleveland Browns of all teams. I mean, now, what do you think about this one? And do you have a lean either way on, never mind the spread, just who's going to win?
Yeah, no question. I got Cleveland winning this game. I love your entire parlay that you just laid out there. I think that's the way it's going to go. That's the NFL. That's the way the NFL wants it to go as well, right? As you just mentioned with this script, we'll say whether or not it is in effect. Yeah, so I got Cleveland winning this game, and it's a good one to open because, like you mentioned, it's two teams with kind of magical seasons they're in their own right. I mean, Houston, we just talked about the Packers and what's supposed to be a foundation building year. I mean, it's kind of what the Houston was hoping to be this year as well. Hope CJ Stroud has a good year. Maybe they can carry it over into future seasons. But now we've kind of hit this point where it's like, wow, Houston might have this window of opportunity that's open for who knows however many years if they can add some more pieces around CJ Stroud and add to this defense, so on and so forth. Having said that, it's nice that the Houston Texans are at home. But here's a stat for you, Huss, and that is, especially if you're a gambler, 38% against the spread, I believe, is the number for first-time playoff starters. That would be C.J. Stroud. You dogpile onto that with the fact that you got D'Amico Ryans as the head coach in the first-time playoff game, and you also got a first-time play caller over there in Houston as well. The history would tell you that Houston's not going to win this game. It's a tough spot for them, not to mention you got the Cleveland Browns coming into this game who are probably the more magical story because of what you alluded to with Joe Flacco there. He's only in his, second month with the Cleveland Browns. This is really, it's an easy story to root for. Would be really special to see him travel up to Baltimore, Maryland there and go and just take on the Baltimore Ravens oh my God. I know I have a Baltimore Ravens buddy who he's a fan of the team and he is scared. I tell you, he told me yesterday, he has no part of Joe Flacco in those routes.
I was about to say the exact same thing. I mean, talking to a few friends that are Ravens fans, and just over the course of the last month or so, out at the bar watching the games, I mean, they're so fired up with what they've done. They go in and wax the 49ers in San Francisco, making a statement that, hey, we're here. And then all of a sudden, Joe's coming on. And you're right, it scares the bejesus out of Ravens fans. Because everyone remembers Joe, who arguably put together the greatest playoff run for a quarterback in history. 11 touchdowns, no picks, a Super Bowl championship. And it is the sort of stuff movies are made of. I mentioned to you, I'm going to be at Arrowhead, and it is going to be freezing. We're seeing the temperature's actually getting worse. Could there possibly be a worse position for the Miami Dolphins to be playing in these conditions on Saturday? Because they've got a great team, but so much of that offense you think is probably nullified, and their defense is so banged up. You got to be ready for about 30 from Isaiah Pacheco all afternoon running angry in minus 20.
Yeah, we're from Canada, Huss, and we have, if you're from Canada, you have played in probably some pretty cold football games, right? Obviously, hockey is one thing, but if you're playing, you've probably played in some pretty cold football games, and in those cold football games, the ball gets slick. It's hard to catch. It's hard to throw. Hard to hold on to it. There's going to be a lot of mistakes in this game. It's as simple as that. Not to mention, this game's going to give us a run for our money as far as being Canadians. It's going to be cold there. So good luck to you sitting in that, not even moving around. Having said that, you mentioned the Miami Dolphins, and they're a good team. But we've talked about them being a track team. They're going to have to get their extra long spikes out for this one if they want to come anywhere close to how fast that they usually are on the field. Not to mention, we talk about teams being hot and healthy going into the playoffs. The Miami Dolphins are definitely not healthy, and I would argue that they're not hot right now either. This is a terrible spot for them. This is a team you could make the argument for no team in the NFL playoffs needed home field advantage more than the Miami Dolphins. I would say that the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys probably got them beat on that note. However, Miami Dolphins are right in that same tier with them. I hate the spot for Miami. It's just no two ways about it. If Jalen Waddle doesn't play and Raheem Mostert doesn't play, who both did log limited practices yesterday, which is good news. But if neither of those guys play, we've seen how Tua looks with less weapons at his disposal. There's just no depth on the Miami Dolphins team here, so it's really going to be really tough for them to score points against what is, as you know, a formidable Kansas City Chiefs defense. So I simply see the Kansas City Chiefs just getting too many possessions in this one. They'll win one. It's going to be an ugly one with a lot of mistakes. I got the under in this game as well, but I think it's going to be a Kansas City Chiefs victory nonetheless.
Well, and from my perspective, I mean, just trying to put myself in a positive mindset going into the playoffs. And we all know the offense has been up and down, more down than up, and has looked brutal at times, and just unlike anything we've seen in the Mahomes era. Yeah. The other thing that we've never seen in the Mahomes era is a defense this good. And, the focus, I mean, we live in a fantasy world. Everyone's talking about, the offensive players. Defense is a huge part of playoff football, even more so in these conditions, and that's a good thing for the Chiefs. I want to hit these final two games with you, and it's interesting, man. The Philly game opened at Philly 4.5, and I mean those are key numbers to get to 3.5 to 3. I'm seeing 2.5 for the first time, which just goes to show you that everybody is out on the Eagles. Where are you at on this game? I mean, never mind the line. Tampa, I guess, still a home dog, but I think a lot of people, considering what we've seen from the Eagles, basically since they left Arrowhead, they have not looked like even a playoff team. I mean, can they get through the first round?
Yeah, I don't have them getting through one. I have Tampa Bay winning this game. I do. It's you want to talk about, again, we talk about in any sport, doesn't matter. Are you hot? Are you healthy going into the playoffs? The Eagles are neither of these. And they are exact opposite of either of these. They are injury riddled and cold as could possibly be. And I think there's more questions than answers surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles right now. That's the problem, right? Is AJ Brown going to play this week? Is Devontae Smith going to play this week? Is Jalen Hurts' finger going to be okay? He suffered that nasty dislocation or whatever it was of his middle finger last week. I don't know if the Philadelphia Eagles are even going to be at full strength. I don't think they're trending toward not being. And even when they have been at full strength, they haven't been a good team. So they have been struggling on defense as far as defending the passing game. So have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But are they even going to be able to take advantage of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' porous pass defense? I don't think that they will. Tampa Bay at home in this spot, again, another team that's kind of playing with house money. Nobody, including myself, expected them to be here at this point in the season. Baker Mayfield's got something to prove. Mike Evans got something to prove. The Philadelphia Eagles are injury riddled, obviously, again. And I think Tampa Bay at home in this spot, I'm completely out on the Philadelphia Eagles. I absolutely see them being a one and done here. And if it's a one and done, Huss, I mean, that's when we'll see what kind of ripple effect that has, because we've seen more drastic things with one and dones. As far as, I'm not suggesting that Nick Sirianni is on the hot seat or anything like that, but there would be changes that could potentially come, whether it's the offensive coordinators or the defensive coordinators. Changes could happen if there's just a one and done.
I couldn't agree with you more. And my thoughts on Sirianni are well documented on this program, but we'll see what happens. I think he's got to win. Otherwise, they may look at the talent that they have and go another way. One final game, and to me, this is the juiciest matchup. The Lions at home to the Rams. Stafford versus Goff. The Lions haven't had a home playoff game in 30 years. They are such a great story. But man, Stafford and that offense has exceeded everyone's expectations this year, and Sean McVay knows how to game plan. Who do you like in this one?
You probably, Huss, could not have. I don't think the Detroit Lions could have handpicked a worse matchup for them in the first round of their first playoff game in 30 years. At home, the vibes are high. The offense is humming. The defense got some warts on it, but
in a way they probably got screwed. I mean, they should have beaten the Cowboys in that game on that ridiculous call, which would have given them the 2 seed. And if they were at home to Tampa, they'd be 7-point favorites. Now they've got to go into it in what could very well be the best game of the weekend.
This is what the NFL wanted, man. We talk about it. This is the script, man. The NFL wanted this, man. Come on. So yeah, this is going to be probably I think the game that everybody's looking forward to the most this weekend. Just as far as it has the makings of being an absolute track meet. This is lots of points on the board. But I have the Los Angeles Rams coming out on top of this one. I think that they end up pulling this one off. You look at Detroit Lions' inexperience. Again, we just finished talking about how it's the first playoff game in 30 years versus the Los Angeles Rams. Although a lot of those pieces from that Super Bowl run have departed, they are still experienced with Aaron Donald and Matthew Stafford, obviously, and Cooper Kupp there. And not to mention, again, you want to talk about a team that's hot. Absolutely no team. You could argue the Cleveland Browns, but I would probably say the Los Angeles Rams. There's a team in the NFL that nobody wanted to play in the first round of the playoffs. It was the Los Angeles Rams this week. Their defense can be sneaky good at times. Detroit Lions just have too many warts on their defensive side of the ball. They're going to have to rely too much on the offense, I think, which can be fine in this situation, perhaps. Like they could maybe pull off a win in a really high-scoring game here, but I do think at the end of the day, the defense is just going to hold them back a little bit too much here. Not to mention the offense in Detroit is going to possibly take a step back this week. No Khalif Raymond. Also, Sam Laporta is hurt. I don't think either of them are going to play in this game. Too many injuries for Detroit here. I like Los Angeles. They're healthy. They're rolling right now, and then we'll see where things kind of take it from here. But this is without a doubt the story of the weekend, and maybe I don't think there's a football coach in the world that knows Jared Goff better than Sean McVay on the opposite sideline. He knows his strengths. He knows his weaknesses. He knows his tendencies. He knows how to game plan against them. And for that reason, I'm taking the Rams all day in this one. Maybe the Detroit Lions offense, although we've seen them so good all season, maybe they take a half step back this weekend because of who's on the opposite sideline. And we see the Los Angeles Rams coming out on top as a result.
That is the Sunday nighter. The schedule goes like this: Cleveland and the Texans Saturday afternoon, Saturday night at Frigid Arrowhead. It's the Chiefs and the Dolphins. Then Bills, Steelers. Bills a massive favorite in that one. The noon game on Sunday. The afternoon Packers Cowboys game is going to kick off at 3:30. Sunday night Lions and the Rams, and then the Monday nighter for Super Wildcard Weekend, the Eagles and the Buccaneers. Josh, this was awesome. We'll have to do it again. Once again, congratulations. A very well-deserved victory lap on WST today. And just before we go, fill people in on what you've got cooking on over with the fellas at the Free.
Yeah, you guys, this is very much the rover of the sports department and really the paper as a whole. So always writing a weekly business feature for the real estate and also a lot of amateur sports beats as well. So by all means, my email, reach me at the Free Press if there are any kind of amateur sports story tips. Also, if I might, Huss, just a shameless plug as far as my own personal content creation at TJC Bets on X, where we have had a lot of success as far as gambling this week in the NFL. So by all means, if you're having trouble looking at the slate, me and my buddy Bryce got you covered with 5 of our best bets on the wild card weekend with our latest video. So feel free to check us out there.
Love it. What's number one?
Number one is as far as my bets.
Yeah. Like if you're only making one wager.
Rams are the bet. Yeah, Rams plus 3.5, no question.
Rams.
Yeah, and I just got their team total this weekend. Well, over 23.5. I think they have no trouble moving the ball this weekend. So
I don't mind that team total as well. And I'm partial. I want Detroit to win this game for having no skin in the game. I'd love to see the story of the Lions continue. We were looking today, 250-1 for a Browns Lions final. That would be, you want to talk about a script, that would be something that I think everyone could sign up for.
What would someone have told you that 5 years ago that was going to be the Super Bowl? Yeah, 3 years ago that was going to be the Super Bowl.
I mean, the funny thing is that in the NFL things can turn around so quickly, except in Cleveland and Detroit. So,
oh my God.
We'll see what happens. Josh, man, this has been awesome. Congrats again. Thanks for doing this. And we'll have to chop it up again sometime soon, pal.
Absolutely, guys. Take care.
There's Joshua Frey-Sam. Give him a follow on Twitter. And check out his content with the fellows talking their favorite picks for the weekend. when it comes to this is such a great weekend lining up. I mean, with these 6 games. And yes, as I mentioned, I am ready to go. As soon as the show tomorrow is finished, I will be jumping in with my pal Greg, heading down to Kansas City, freezing our asses off there. And Michael and I guess probably Connor will be handling things on Monday. And tomorrow on the show, Michael Remis, as he rejoins us, is going to get a well-deserved day off because it's Remo's birthday. So Connor and I are going to be holding it down tomorrow, along with our pal Alex, who will be producing. And we will also, we'll get to, our picks, and Ken Weeb's going to join us. But don't miss tomorrow's show because we're going back-to-back with a great interview with Chuck Hellebuyck. Tomorrow, Rucker McGroarty on the program. And we've already done that one, so we'll play it for you tomorrow. I can tell you you'll enjoy it. And almost as much as you, Remis, will enjoy a well-deserved day off on your birthday.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a long stretch. As I actually haven't really taken we've had long weekends, but you and I haven't taken too many days off. So I'm happy to hear you're going to KC, and it'll be off Monday, and I'll be here Friday. So great guests coming up with Rutger tomorrow. I should be having Jesse Pollock. We're going to be recording something Sunday, and I'll play it on Monday. He's got a busy day, so
beautiful.
A lot going on here, and a lot of interest in the Jets, and hopefully they can keep it rolling here with a win tonight against Chicago and Saturday against Torts and the Philadelphia Flyers.
I'll be checking out the show on our way back at some point in the middle of the continent on Monday. I'm pumped to see you chop it up with Jesse. I can't imagine, his energy level is over the top at a normal time, and now with the Jets first overall. I mean, in Toronto, he's probably borderline insufferable to people around him right now, talking about the Jets so much.
Yeah,
which I am here for.
Well, I mean, he's the guy who's going into Maple Leaf Square with a sign that says, "I'm here for the first round exit," which was a classic. But yeah, looking forward to talking to him about the Jets. Also, he's at the World Juniors too. I think he had a great experience there, seeing Rutger and Team USA win gold. So there's definitely a number of topics that we can touch on, and I'm certainly looking forward to that.
Right on. Well, listen, before we shut her down today, and we're already past 3:00, but it's been a great one. Again, welcome to all. We've had so many new people pop in. Hit that subscribe button. Join us daily here. We'll have, as I mentioned, Connor Rabchak. Looking forward to having Connor step in for Reem tomorrow. And, of course, our pal Alex. Oh, and by the way, did you talk to Alex? Alex came through big time. We did not think we'd be able to pull off a marble race in the past, and he did. Should we think that we're probably going to be able to pull that off tomorrow, Reem?
I'm going to call him after this, right when this is done, and confirm with him some of the ad reads. I've sent him some of the new videos. And I think I'll check with him.
Yeah,
but if he did it before.
It's not confirmed, but we are hoping. So we're not promising it, but I think there's a good chance we will be able to pull the marbles off. And as I said, it should be a real fun one tomorrow. But let's get to it. We got a busy night tonight in the National Hockey League. And we cooked up a couple beauties in the lock shop. And as I mentioned, I promised I would do a WST parlay for the Jets game tonight after getting just about a 5-1 winner on Tuesday. So let's get to it. But as far as the games go tonight, big slate of games. Ottawa at Buffalo. Buffalo is a -125 favorite. Sens +106. Hurricanes a massive -355 favorite at home against the Ducks. The Oilers are on fire. They've won 8 in a row. They're -179 favorites in Detroit against the Red Wings. The Kings have lost 6 in a row. Panthers have won 8 in a row. PLD's on the fourth line. Panthers -146 to make it 9 in a row. I do like this upset, Reem. I think this is the spot. The Sharks may finally win a game. Habs played last night in Philly, turning it around back at home tonight. Sharks have lost 12 in a row. Their last 10, all in regulation. Well, why not get back into the win column tonight? San Jose is +149. I won't be putting that on any parlays, but that will be a side wager. Habs -176. The Leafs and John Tavares going into always hostile territory on Long Island tonight. Leafs -123 faves. Islanders +105 at Coolbet. The Canucks keep on rolling, and they are, once again, a road dog. They've been making some people money. They are the most profitable team in the league this year. If you just bet $1 on the Canucks to win every game, number 2 in the league, your Winnipeg Jets. But the Canucks plus 111 up against Pittsburgh Penguins and Sidney Crosby. Crosby and the boys minus 130 favorites. You've got the Devils without Jack Hughes plus 126 dogs in Tampa. Lightning minus 148. Did you know the Kraken have won 7 in a row and are 8-0-2 in their last 10?
I think you said something like that earlier in the show, so it did alert me to that. And yes, they've been hot. Joey Decord is taking over the net. They've got this balanced approach to the lines. I think I might be taking them again to win. Didn't they? Wasn't it this time last year they had some crazy road
They
trip?
ran the table, the 7-0 on that 7-game road trip. That was a big reason why they made the playoffs. Anyways, the Kraken are really pushing right now. They're a road favorite tonight, minus 119 in Washington against Ovi and the Caps, plus 101. New York Rangers are in St. Louis to take on the Blues. The Rangers are a road favorite at minus 164. The Jets, the biggest favorite on the board at minus 400. The puck line for this game is minus 2.5. So the Jets to win by 3 is plus 125. We're going to tweak that for our WST parlay. But the final game on the board, 2 more games actually. Calgary in Arizona. Flames are a slight road favorite at minus 122. And how about this one, Remo, to finish it off? Looks like Aiden Hill's returning tonight. Did not play last night against the Avalanche. And Vegas, who is in a bit of a slump of their own, hosting the Boston Bruins. Vegas, a home dog at plus 113, and the Boston Bruins minus 133. Vegas getting shut out last night by Georgiev, and the Avalanche doing us no favors in the Central Division.
Yeah, Vegas, they got interesting issues with goaltending. Logan Thompson's out. Aiden Hill was supposed to come back yesterday, but he was a late scratch, and it was Patera. And now that was a pretty tight game, but Colorado put the screws on him. 3-0. I thought maybe we'd see some goals. Georgiev's got the weirdest line where he's up there among leaders in wins, Huss, but in terms of save percentage, he's well below 900. So when you have, a top line like they do with McKinnon and Ranton and Jonathan Drouin is playing really well. Alan Walsh will certainly let you know that one. They're a good team. As much as we've said, hey, they don't have the depth. They're solid. Kushkin playing well. They got some ball players, as Ricker likes to say, on the Avs. So they're gonna, we want to think that the Jets have the Central Division locked up here on January 11, but there's still half a season left. And Colorado and Dallas had to win, even though the Jets are ahead of both of those teams. I think it's going to go down to the wire here.
Yeah, well, I mean, all these teams just keep on winning right now, and they just got to keep it going to keep their cushion at the top of the division. By the way, we've been following the Jets Cup odds all season long. Many of us got in at 60-1 with a little fun wager at the start of the year. It was 14-1 earlier this week. It's dropped again at Coolbet. The Jets are now 12-1 to win the Cup, tied with the Florida Panthers. The only teams with better odds than the Winnipeg Jets, or lower odds, I should say, 3 teams at 11-1, Rangers, Bruins, Hurricanes. 3 teams at 10-1, Avalanche, Oilers, and the Vegas Golden Knights. But here's what's a little strange. If you look at the Cup odds and the Western Conference odds, so the Jets are 12-1 to win the Cup, behind Colorado, behind Edmonton, behind Vegas. And yet when you look at the Western Conference winner, the Jets are actually tied with the Avalanche as the favorite at plus 550. Edmonton and Dallas and Vegas all 6-1. So people are noticing. Hopefully you maybe got in a little bit on the Jets earlier right now, but still there every reason to believe that they are right in the mix with those other top contenders for the Cup and the Western Conference. All right, we did crank out a couple of exclusives here, gang. And with all the games tonight, well, first of all, we were looking at the teams on the streaks. So we put together a little we're going streaking parlay. The Oilers, who've won 8 in a row to beat Detroit. The Florida Panthers, who have won 8 in a row to win again. The Kraken, who've won 7 in a row to win. And the Jets, of course, we know all about their wins. Jets to win as well. That was just over plus 500. It's boosted to plus 575. So Oilers, Panthers, Kraken, Jets, all to win. Money line can win in overtime, can win in shootout. We got that one boosted to plus 575. And we did take 3 teams that aren't involved in that streaking parlay. The Penguins over the Canucks. The Lightning. Who are the Lightning playing again?
Devils.
Lightning over the Devils. And Bruins over the Knights. That one is plus 475. And listen, it's not up yet because I just put it in while we were talking to Chuck Hellebuyck. But people wanted a WST parlay to see if we can go back to back. So I have put that forth. We're just waiting on the odds. It'll be in the exclusives at the bottom under Winnipeg Sports Talk Parlay. We are taking the Jets minus 1.5. So Jets to win by 2. A Nino Niederreiter goal and 2 points for Josh Morrissey. So if you like that, if you like 2 points from Morrissey, a goal from Nito, and the Jets to win by 2, check out the Coolbet exclusives a little bit later on, probably in the next half hour or so. That should be up, and we'll see there. We'll see what we can do. Oh, it is up right now, actually. And here we go. Look at that. It's 11-1. Nino Niederreiter, a goal. Morrissey, 2 points. Jets minus 1.5. 11-1. So that's certainly the longest odds. But hey, while we're hot, why not take a nice big swing? So anyways, if you do like that one, it's up there. You just got to click more odds at the bottom of there, Remis. You'll see there. And then boom, there it is. WST parlay.
They're
so it's just below. Load it up.
They're hiding it down there because you won last time. They don't want people to know.
For sure. We got in a little late after these other ones were put up. But yeah, you just got to click on more odds. You'll see it there. And we'll get in on it. So here we go. No Connor Bedard tonight, but that's okay. We get a chance to see the number 1 team in the NHL try and continue this streak. Oh, and I can't believe we didn't look at this before, Reem, but I should pull up this Jets game. What's the number? What's the team total on the Blackhawks under 2.5? It's now minus 242. Under 1.5 plus 125. But we're like 17 straight games with the Jets opponents 2 goals or less in regulation. Those totals are regulation only. So may have to get back to a more reasonable number with the game against Philly, presuming they can keep the streak going.
Yeah, that's the big story. Again, the Jets keep the streak, catch Minnesota Wild from whatever year that was, a couple years ago. So
15.
14, 15. So 35 is the number. They're at 33 or less. Lauren Brossois going to be up to him to keep it going. And you'd like to think that, a team that's got like, I don't know, who's it? Khrushchev, top line center, Jason Dickinson. I mean, not exactly like they're not.
It's ugly.
It's not great for Chicago. They've got a lot of injuries and they're missing their star players. So, hey, stranger things have happened though. I mean, they did beat Calgary. They played Edmonton tight. Don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. They still have to play the games. They're still NHL players, Huss.
Hey, just before we go, and we got to get this up so we can have people be able to listen to on their way to the game. You're not here tomorrow. Do you have any NFL takes on picks for the wild card weekend before we leave?
I am in. I'm nervous about Joe Flacco if he's gonna come back down to earth. Ooh. But I think Cleveland gets it done. I like their defense. Chiefs over Dolphins, but maybe that's a bit closer than you think it's gonna be. I do like that Packers number has come down way down. It's +7 now. Yeah. I like the Cowboys and the Stafford Bowl. I think I'm going with the Rams there, although it's going to be tight and maybe the wheels fall off for the Eagles even further. I don't know if you saw Jason Kelce had to leave the podcast. They had to re-record it because Travis started making fun of him for their clock management in the last game. So
I caught a little bit of it this morning, but I will check that out. We'll probably do some listening. We'll have plenty of time to listen on the way to KC tomorrow. Great stuff as always. I mean, how good was Chuck Hellebuyck? We get a lot of nice comments and stuff on some of the things we've had on the show, but that is right up there. I think as far as just the chat reaction, One of the most popular interviews I think we've done on the show.
He was breakout star from the trip. You know, I don't know how we didn't know that he had such a popular YouTube channel, 290,000 plus subs. And now people here saying, I'm going to get into 3D printing now. Certainly passionate. He mentioned wrote books. It was pretty interesting hearing him as a hockey dad as well, growing up with Connor Hellebuyck and, his journey from, Michigan to the NHL, and also hearing about the dad's trip. I think a lot of us don't really get, what goes on behind the scenes to keep this hockey team going, and certainly appreciative of the opportunity to go on the trip, and, how, all the dads are now became friends, and him and Scheifele's dad, they're pretty tight as the veterans of the dad/mentors trip.
Well, good stuff. And thank you very much, Mary Jane. That was a great interview with Chuck. Chuck, one of the best guests of all time from Dan Jets fan. I mean, I'm still just blown away by that story about a young Connor evaluating the forward sticks. And again, if you popped in late or whatever, make sure to check that out. I'm sure we'll post it on its own. Definitely worth your time. And in the meantime, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say also, check, we talked yesterday, we went to that Blue Jackets Jets game in the suite. Check out our YouTube short, Instagram, Reel, or TikTok for, a look at our game day experience. I put that together yesterday, getting a ton of reaction on Instagram and YouTube short and TikTok as well. So make sure you're following.
Expert voiceover by Remis, and it was described as ASMR Remis. The ASMR Remis tour of the premium area at Canada Life Center. TikTok, Instagram, where else is it at? Is it on Twitter, or we're going to put it on, keep it on those other ones? And by the way, Remis mentioned we're just about a 4K on Insta, so give us a follow there. And if you're a TikToker, follow Sports Talk WPG there as well.
Yeah, so all the links to our socials are in the description of this video if you're here on YouTube. So check it out, and it is also in YouTube Shorts. That's a thing. So look, we got
Shorts, nice.
Closing in on. We just got 10.5K subs here on YouTube.
I saw that,
but closing in on 4K on Instagram. So a lot of milestones I'm looking to hit. So we're we're 6 away on Instagram. So help us out. I'll put it in the chat right now.
Spency, to the penalty box for you, my friend. Have a great one, everybody. Enjoy the game tonight. I'll be back tomorrow with Connor Rabchak filling in for a Michael Remis. We'll chop it up. We will have the Rucker McGrory interview tomorrow. Do not miss it. Ken Wiebe, Hacksaw, and fingers crossed, not guaranteeing marbles, but I think we'll be able to pull it off because of the big brain of our pal Alex Allard. Huge thanks to Josh Frey-Sam, Chuck Hellebuyck, and Scott Billeck. Again, we had some reaction from Cheveldayoff's comments earlier on in the program. It's all there for you if you jumped in a little bit late. Subscribe to the podcast for you YouTubers if you haven't already. Just search Winnipeg Sports Talk wherever you get your favorite pods. And before you go, if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give a thumbs up to the episode. For the birthday boy tomorrow, Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow on Winnipeg Sports Talk heading into the weekend.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.